YouTube, Facebook, and a wide variety of other audience resources. Uh, I don't know if we'll have time to take questions, but we'd love to get some. Please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, or if you're joining in from LinkedIn, using the chat system. Same thing for YouTube and Facebook. I'm very delighted for the day ahead, and I'm very, you know, uh, happy that we have Chef Sanjeev with us today. Padma Shri award winning, who's going to talk to us a little bit about how they've looked at the pandemic, how they've dealt through, and shine light on some of the more disruptive innovations that have happened during this time. But I thought as we kick off, I just set the context. I'm very glad that we could do our annual tourism conclave and summit for Delhi. At the beginning of the year, we were working with the Delhi government and the LG very closely. I think we had at least three meetings that I was involved in to launch a spectacular event where we looked at a year-long year of Delhi tourism, and that included new policies, launch of various properties in Delhi. I won't say more. I'm sure the LG's office would love to provide a list now post COVID-19 that they had been preparing, a range of announcements by the Delhi government, lots of support, and we were all geared to see that how can we increase Delhi stage tourism 2x, 3x, 5x. Those were the large numbers we were looking at. Obviously, COVID-19 happened fairly quickly at the start of the financial year. And both COVID-19 and the response to it has unfortunately, to be honest, decimated the sector. I think even when we were in March or April, as we were just understanding what would be the wide variety of impact that this would have, it would have been very hard to predict that a vast majority of particularly SME businesses in the tourism sector, I'm talking about the smaller hotels, restaurants, travel agents, ecosystems, would suddenly face this kind of pressure. I'm also very worried to note that because of the severe financial pressures that the Delhi government as well as the national government is going under, a lot of the very lovely announcements, I think almost 3,000, 4,000 crore that was earmarked for uplifting just domestic tourism was not being able to be spent. And I am confident, however, that this money will really go or to a far better use now, particularly given that we have a vaccine coming out. I think this has shined a lot of positivity in the sector, that we have at least 2 to 3 major vaccine candidates. As we speak, millions of people are getting the doses, whether you are in the US, whether you are in the UK, which were the first in the Western world to start, or even in the UAE, which has been now successfully vaccinating people for the past month or so. Uh, with millions of people getting the vaccines, we are seeing now the end of the road. And just I, ironically or coincidentally, COVID-19 it looks like it's going to cover just one entire financial year. Where it started towards the end of March, it also looks, at least for the impact on the tourism sector and industry, we will see this end hopefully by the end of March. And we're already seeing a lot of it end sooner. I think I want to focus also on a lot of the silver linings that we have seen. One, there has been an impressive increase in the domestic tourism and the rediscovery of internal India as a destination. As people have found that they are unable to travel abroad or there are severe restrictions of quarantine, you've had a large number of people all across the country who have said that, look, if we can't fly, let's drive. If we can't drive, let's take a train. And even those who have flown have always used Delhi as a stopping point to go through because the confidence that they have in the city's infrastructure and of the high quality tourism establishments ability to really maintain levels of hygiene and quarantine that are required in this time period. This has been something our Prime Minister had launched at the start of the year with the goal of that every person should at least visit 12 domestic destinations in their lifetime. And that has happened in a spectacular fashion. I think that deepening of internal travel is something India needed and will add to a great strength for our domestic tourism industry going forward. Second, this has also allowed for a big reset. Tourism was an industry that required a major disruption. There were a lot of changes that were happening all across the world. India was one of the leading lights and catching up fast to what we say were the international standards. There has been a one-time now forced disruption of the sector, and we are seeing a lot of people stand up and say that look, tourism is more about experiences and not just going and physically being at a location and saying okay, I was there. That has led to a great number of innovations, even though I was shocked to see how well virtual tourism has happened. Virtual simple things as virtual ceremonies, events, all of this has happened. Now, we do see the upside of that is that once we return to normal, I think people have done a mass experiment of what can and cannot be done in the virtual world. And this has gained a massive appreciation for the need for physical time with family, with friends, with colleagues, the need for physical time for training, for really keeping people there, present, and engaged. I think around the world, there is a huge pent up demand from travel. People are sick of being stuck where they are, and this will be unleashed all across the world. Delhi, as a main port of entry to India, will always gain from this surge. And I think also perhaps what is working in Delhi and in India's favor. Uh, India gets around 10.8 million tourists a year, which has been increasing at a clip pace of 3.4%. And full credit to our Prime Minister for at the very beginning of his tenure to opening up India from a visa system to allow millions of people to visit. But we have been still far behind most of our major European competitors who have seen those levels for individual cities, forget about countries. And I think with the shutdown of Europe, with Europe still thinking through how it wants, a lot of people, particularly in the US and all, have been burnt by suddenly having their visas restricted, unable to travel. We are still going to see for the next 3 to 6 months the advent of maybe um, vaccinate passbooks and such. This is the opportunity for India and Delhi to step forward and now gain market share for the next year. I think this new era of Indian tourism in 2021 will be marked by our ability to really make a case that come visit India. Out of all the destinations in the world, we have a serious healthcare system, we are safe, we have a high class tourism infrastructure, and we have a government and we have a people who are willing to be flexible, which is, I think, a huge attraction, particularly given the options of our states to decide the level in their own international airports of individual quarantines and such. And I'm deeply confident that the tourism sector will be prioritized. But that said, I think the industry needs tremendous support from the government. I admit it was not very encouraging to hear certain industry stalwarts saying that the sector has been abandoned by the government or must fend for itself. I think there was a little bit of a scramble among governments to deal with the healthcare issues first and then industry second. But I'm confident that now that there is a vaccine, now I think the government also sees the tourism sector as one of the largest employers in the country. They see a vast ecosystem which can provide jobs. We have an exciting new labor code that is coming in. We have a lot of exciting reforms that will really unlock the potential of India as an economy. And with this, should bring millions of people into India to see it not just as a tourist destination, but as an investment destination. Even a small simple thing which we were talking in another CI conference, the ability of Indian companies, domestic companies, to list abroad, I think will do wonders for the tourism sector. their ability to raise large amount of capital from markets such as the US and Europe, but also with the advent of retail stock markets in these countries, it is highly likely that we will see the advent of Indian companies turning into household names, which will increase India's depth of globalization and connectivity. All of this bodes well for travel. We have seen in India that a lot of family tourism starts with somebody coming from a business trip, having a fantastic time and saying, the next family vacation has to be here because now I am familiar with the country, I'm confident of its infrastructure, have been exposed, and I want to do a deep dive. I see both at the Delhi government, at the LG's office, and at our prime ministerial level, a deep desire for the industry to grow. And I certainly expect that for the next 60 to 90 days, we should be seeing a large number of announcements in specific on how we can upgrade and bolster the sector, going beyond the usual promises of credit lines and debt into serious investments and reinvestments in infrastructure. CII, of course, continues to work with the Delhi government and the LG office in helping set policy, in helping with guidance of how the sector in Delhi can be revived, can transform, and what needs to be done on the ground to really provide support. And as we move beyond COVID-19 days, I, for one, am very, very optimistic about what can be accomplished if all of us make sure as an ecosystem we are able to work together and work lockstep with our very progressive governments at the state and the central level. Thank you for that. I'm going to leave it. I'm very excited to hear our remarks. I do believe we have a short video from Mr. Vikram Bakshi, who unfortunately I don't think could join us at this time. Could we play that? CI team, Pankaj, do we have a video quickly?
Yes, yes, please.
Excellent.
Due to certain unavoidable reasons, I'm unable to partake in the third edition of the Tourism e-conclave. Over the years, one has had opportunity to hear the views of eminent speakers of our industry, and of course, make many friends. 2020 has been a watershed year in our lives and a year of reckoning. A pandemic one had never seen before hitting the world like a tsunami. Something we shall not forget in a hurry. We got hit in all aspects of our business and had to fight with all our might. It was truly a fight to survive. Travel, both business and leisure, came to a complete halt. Revenues completely evaporated, while we were left staring at hosts of costs: staff salaries and wages, utility costs, property taxes, and debt servicing being some of the major ones. The first few months passed away in disbelief. As reality dawned on us, one had to make very harsh decisions. F&B was even more severely affected. Restaurants, bars, banqueting had no customers. Tens of thousands of restaurants have got wiped out, affecting employment in a big way. There's no doubt the survivors in our industry have to think and operate differently. The theme of our conclave is very apt for the uncertain times we live in today. That is, adjusting to the new normal. We have many of the survivors today as our eminent speakers who shall provide their views on the way forward. CII has put together a composite program. I personally believe it is time to press the revival button. Let me pass the baton to my colleagues without further ado and start the program of the day. Thank you and wishing you good deliberations.
I think uh, I think Vikramji has put it very starkly, of what has happened in the sector. But I think also what I'm very encouraged to hear today is, as he rightly put it, all of our speakers or who are on the panels here are people who have found ways to move beyond, those severe issues that have happened in the industry and found a way through this pandemic. And I think that knowledge, that experience will really hold well for the next few years and even the decade ahead. With that, I would love to get Sanjeev ji in here. Sanjay ji, you have been an innovator. You have been somebody who has been a spokesperson and ambassador for this sector for many, many years. You've been an inspiration to many young people all across. I still meet young people who, who are turning into chefs at now at the age of 17, 18. That has become their aspiration. Years before, if a male member of the family or even a female member of the family, to be honest, said that their passion was cooking and they want to take it up as a professional endeavor. Um, at best, they would get a scolding. At worst, they would get a beating. That this is not something that is serious. And I think you brought a level of dignity and professionalism to the entire F&B sector that has allowed so many of our young men and women to really view it as a career, to view it as a passion, and to view it as a choice to get skilled in this arena. So with that, I would love to invite you in. Please, how have you been doing under the pandemic? What have you been up to? And what can we learn for the F&B and tourism sector?
Thank you very much. Thank you for this honor. And I think you put it very aptly. And what I liked is the optimism in your voice. I think that's the key. And I must admit, you asked me how I have done. I must admit that when all of this started, first probably 15 days was denial, and then 1 month was okay. We were getting adjusted to it. By end of that month, there was worry. And next 30 days was how to solve this worry. And I would say that end of May was something that we decided that this is not something that nobody should be able to take over our lives, and we should not get stuck with what there is in offer, and we should not just sit back and relax. And I can tell you that, this may sound surprising, but as a year, if I were to look at overall year, we have done better than last year in terms of the new initiatives that we could look at, because we had the time, and we had the time to reflect. We never thought that things were bad. We thought that things would get better. So that was the only thing that we were working on. And with that thought, there were thoughts that came in, and we were able to launch initiatives which we were not looking at earlier. And the opportunity was probably also right at this time. One of the things that we did was to launch an online academy of our cooking courses, and it's done exceedingly well. And this was not done by any specialist. It was done by our restaurant team. So we used all of them. We used to create content. So we had all the talent, we had all the know-how, we had all the staff. Rather than laying them off and putting them on furlough, we put them together. We made them trainers. We made them create content, and the online courses are live. And what did we did the courses on? How to start food business from home with restaurant style food or with home style food. So these were the courses, and done exceedingly well. It's not even 40 days. And I can tell you, it's the revenue is something which is probably more than what one of the top restaurants can achieve in a month. So that's what something. And then the other thing I realized was that we know food. How do we get to, this is a health related problem. We have always, as chefs, worked across taste, and that's been our focus. But I think it's our responsibility to work on health also. So we started working on understanding of health, again with our team. And I'm happy to share that I've been able to sign one joint venture with a pharmaceutical company to develop on a range of nutraceutical products. And we are on the verge of signing one more on with another pharma company, another new range of nutraceuticals. And why would they work with us is because we understand taste, because our understanding of taste is there, and it is again driven by our chefs from the restaurant category. So the point I'm trying to make is that while we will go back to where we were, but I think this is a time, and even now it continues, and it may continue for a few months more, for people to pivot their strengths and look at opportunities which many may not see. So it is a time to lead. It is a time to see what new can be done and use your strengths. And I just got an email from US, a content company, and they just acquired cooking classes. And what they have done again in pandemic, they have put together about 6,000 chefs who are just training, and they've created a platform around that, and it's become very valuable. So the point I'm saying is, it's not that if you have a skill set, if you have something, it can be utilized. It can be a place that you have. It can be real estate that is there. There can be a better way than what it was. We just need to act quickly and say that it is possible. And I can say that for me, probably it's intuitive because that's how I have behaved all my life. But I'm sure it is not something which is very difficult. Yes. What do we need? We just need to say to ourselves, it can be done. And then it's done. Coming to Delhi tourism, if I were to say, I live in Mumbai, I can tell you, but I studied in Delhi, so I know a lot about Delhi. I think there's a big opportunity for food of Delhi to shine. We talk about it, but there are few things which I think they have, people can come together and start doing something. And this I'm saying from my personal experience. I've worked with a few countries on, so Singapore, I worked, Australia, I worked on the tourism policy, how to build tourism around food. So last many years, we have worked with Australia as a country, and they pivoted their whole tourism policy around restaurant. The whole promotion was called Restaurant Australia. That's now Delhi, I think, has a unique advantage where there is so much of great food, delicious food lies there. And two of the top restaurants in the list of world's best 100 are in Delhi, nowhere in India. So I think right from street food to high-end food, the diversity in food is so much. I think branding of, so while butter chicken may be there everywhere, there are people in Mumbai that say, "Oh, Delhi wala taste nahi milta yahan par Bombay mein," right? Which is true. So, which means there is an opportunity to convert butter chicken from Delhi not being sold as butter chicken, but as Delhi wala butter chicken, brand it like that. And I think there are many such opportunities, right from chole bhature to butter chicken to healthier things to more. I remember filming for CNN many years ago, and we did mustard fields in Delhi, in and around Delhi. We filmed there, and the way organically grown, and you can have smaller areas, and Delhi has that advantage, unlike Mumbai, where you can literally have farm to table concept within a city like Delhi. There is so much of greenery that's there. There are those opportunities. So I think it's time to reflect. It's time to look at what can be done, what we were using as an excuse that, oh, this is something that we cannot do. Now there's nothing you can do. That means that you can do everything. When you have nowhere to go, you can go everywhere. I think that's the best opportunity. This is the time, and there could not have been a better time on sharing some insights here. Recently, last week, I was in Mahabaleshwar. And just to tell you what the experience was, a friend of mine, he wanted to extend his stay by a day. whole of Mahabaleshwar has many hotels, big hotels also, not even one room available. Le Meridien, 22,000 rupees. Says, sorry, sir, we are full. My daughters are going, they said, oh, we don't want to be in Mumbai. So they plan to go to Nasik. Taj has a hotel there. And I was talking to the GM there. I did the booking. I said, how is it going? And the words he used was, sir, it's rocking. Now, this is real. We are not talking of any other place. We are talking of India. We are talking real business being conducted. So let's put our past behind. Let's bring the smiles back. Let's bring the confidence back. And I can surely say this. Okay, we may be an exception that we use this opportunity and we did better than what we did last year. Now, that's something maybe may not have been possible with many people, but that does not stop us from believing that from now on it can be much better than what it was. And my belief is that what this pandemic has taught us, and including the industry, hospitality industry, which I always have been saying that needed to bring in efficiencies in their cost. And I think this is the time when it has been hit hard. Most people have understood that efficiencies are important. So with an efficient start, let's, and with a bigger smile, with a lot of confidence and positivity, let's create Delhi as a role model, as an example, where it can show the way to whole of India. And since I represent food, I would say let's start by saying that no conversation in the world there should be anywhere reference to Delhi belly. Let's rebrand and say it's delicious Delhi. Thank you.
Chef Sanjeev, I don't think I could have put that better. I love the rebranding. I think it's fantastic, and it's so I don't know, enthusiastic, but also a big relief to hear that that you, even from anecdotal experience, the domestic tourism industry is back. We are seeing local locations now becoming full, and at least hopefully with with the vaccine enthusiasm, we're not going to lose this Jan, Feb, March critical months, particularly for a place like Delhi State, which thrives on those winter months. So thank you for injecting that air of positivity. It was so wonderful to see how that even during the crisis, your team was able to pivot. And I think, and as you said it, a lot of people weren't able to do it, and you were uniquely positioned to do it. But for me, that's a big deal. That look, there are opportunities, and we have many stories of entrepreneurs during these hard times who came up with alternatives, and it has been a year of learning. And I particularly agree with you. I think cost rationalization, cost systems have really looked at it. So we are going to see a far more competitive, internationally competitive industry coming out of this, and which hopefully will now go from strength to strength in the next 3 to 6 months to come. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
If I can invite Meenaji. Meenaji has been a stalwart of our CII Delhi for oil. If you can please give your closing remarks.
Thank you, Aditya. I'm absolutely overwhelmed to be between two extraordinary people. Aditya, who's a speaker on extraordinary, and a chef who's, there are no words to describe what he has brought to the industry. I think he's been a inspiration to so many. I think other than just the food that he creates, I think he's built our industry. He's really given tourism another name. I think hospitality industry, which food is a big part of it. And I think the advocacy that, sir, you've done for the industry is absolutely extraordinary. You've made Indian food, you brought Indian food to another level all over the world. And I think also India as such, I think the kind of shows that you have done today, you are, your reputation actually precedes you, because you actually did all this, which was things that we did in the pandemic because we had to do that. I think you've been leading that for a while now. You've been doing TV shows, and you've become a household name in cooking. You've been the favorite of many. So no food conversation in India, I think, happens without your name. So Indian food is absolutely synonymous with your name. And today, I think what you said has ignited a new kind of spirit in us. We were very despondent. I know that the tourism industry is picking up and the sentiment is getting better. And I know that people have started to travel to remote and unknown destinations. Mahabaleshwar, I know, thank you, for bringing up Meridian name here. And I know that people are starting to travel, but still the city hotels have been quite under the cloud of uncertainty and what is going to happen. We have been disappointed with many things that happened. We were disappointed with not getting much attention from the government. But and we all know that we are a very resilient industry. We know that tourism is here to stay forever and forever. And we know that we will build this industry back. Against all odds, people will travel. People will travel with the vengeance now. People will definitely travel, and people will travel for our food. Yes, absolutely, they will travel to Delhi. They will travel for our food. Delhi is the food capital of the country, and I think will be of the world. If we have people like Chef Kapoor, and if he is inspiring young chefs, which he is doing in a very big way, he spoke about his academy, his online academy. So he is actually building a legacy for the young chefs, and I'm quite sure that Delhi will be the world capital of the food. And Chef, we can't thank you enough for doing what you're doing for our industry. Thank you so much. Thank you, Aditya, and thank you, Mr. Bakshi, for remotely encouraging us with your kind words and giving us the confidence that the industry is here to stay. We will rebuild. We will stay there, we will welcome guests, and we will build and grow. We continue to celebrate tourism in India as always. Thank you. Thank you, Aditya.
Thank you, everyone. I think we are on time, and I will hand it over to our next session moderators. Thank you all for being in attendance today. It is going to be a day of transformation, and I'm very excited to hear from all of our speakers who have found ways to innovate, disrupt, and move ahead during these pandemic times.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Anjali. Good morning.
May I request Mr. Jaideep to kindly start the session?
Anjali, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I just want, if you can start my video, I guess it's controlled by the host.
I'll just do that.
Yes. Okay. Here I am. Hi. Good morning to everyone, to our viewers, to our esteemed panelists. And we've heard the golden words from the celebrity chef, is giving us encouragement. We also want to sort of talk about the green shoots and are we on the road of recovery, and what are the opportunities that we need to embrace as we move forward. What are the solutions that we now need to make to grow again. So to talk all of this, I have a very diverse and a great panel, legendary people with me. Mr. Subhash Goyal, who's chairman of Strict Travel. He is also the chairman of Tourism Services Sector of Federation of Indian Export Organizations. Mr. Goyal is a legend in himself. He's been the ambassador of our travel and tourism industry. Mr. Goyal, a very warm welcome to you. I have Mr. Ankur Bhatia. Again, the word luxury and hospitality sort of resonates with Ankur and the prominent bird group. Ankur's, created a brand, which is perhaps the most difficult thing to do, and created a luxury brand called Roseate. We've seen the hotels in Delhi, in the hinterland, in Europe. I mean, absolutely spectacular hotels, design-driven, distinctive hotels. He's been a pioneer in what he's done. Again, a very prominent name for Delhi tourism. Ankur, I welcome you on this panel.
Thank you, Jaideep.
Thank you. I have Mr. Nikhil Sharma. Nikhil represents the Wyndham Group of Hotels, leading hotel chain of the world. Nikhil leads the Europe and the Asia region as regional director for Wyndham Hotels. Again, they have a great penetration into the Indian market, not only in tier 1 markets, but also prominently in tier 2 markets. So they have a pulse on how people travel, where people travel. They really control that kind of demand. Nikhil, I welcome you on board this great panel.
Thank you, Jaideep.
And, to add diversity to an all male and gentleman on the group, I have a great lady, Sonavi Kaikar. Sonavi is the CEO of Neemrana Hotels. Now, if we are living in this part of the world, we wouldn't have missed this brand. They stand for luxury hospitality and for heritage. I think this is one such brand which came outside of Delhi, and Delhi, being upwardly mobile, started traveling to the hinterland, I think, courtesy Neemrana Hotels. And what they've created is absolutely fantastic. Sonavi, by the way, I don't know if many of us know, but also is a golfer. So that adds another spin to luxury and to the extracurricular activities that we all like to get in while we work hard. Sonavi, we welcome you.
Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, I work for a company called JLL. We're into real estate, and you must be wondering, what am I doing here? So we do hospitality advisory and transactions business as part of the larger JLL platform. Not only in other asset classes, but also in hotels, and we do mergers and acquisitions, we do debt advisory, we do project feasibilities, operator searches. I mean, end to end that you would get in this asset class called hospitality. But we don't run hotels. We certainly manage properties. We do asset management, but in other parts of real estate, including retail, offices, campuses, but not in hotels in India so far. So I'm very happy to moderate this great panel. I'm missing my chairman, Mr. Vikram Bakshi, who couldn't be here for some unavoidable circumstances. We had a great association so far. We released our Delhi tourism report last year with CII being the partner. So JLL is very grateful to CII for giving us this opportunity every year. Okay, so let's get on to the conversation. And to set the ball rolling, I'll just like to run you through some slides that would just give you a bit of the idea of where we are in terms of the economy. Are we out yet? Are we looking at that long road to recovery? I just want to check with Anjali. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
We all can.
We all can. Great. Okay. So let's just get into a bit of data, and I'll just take 5 minutes to run you through these 5 or 6 slides. COVID-wise, we have hopefully started seeing the recovery, and Delhi is also leading the charts. So there is a dip in the average daily cases, which is a good sign. Again, we all just need to be mindful of another wave, etc. We've seen in the other parts of the world, but let's be mindful and let's just look at the positive side. So the cases going down. What have we done since we opened after the lockdown? The GST collections are up, leaving aside November, which was a slight dip. We see the domestic air passenger traffic is up by 33% on a month-to-month growth. We are seeing the petrol consumption is up, again, is a marker that, you know, things are getting better. Now, you may argue, where are people going? Maybe they're not using public transport and using their own cars. So, you know, at least people started moving. So the consumption's up. We've seen the GDP growth forecast is being revised to a 10.8% instead of only 8% for FY 21-22. We're also seeing the GDP contraction has just been better than it was expected at 9.5% for FY 2020-21 to 7.5%. So there are certain indicators that we are getting better. What happens, where are we in terms of real estate? And I thought that, it's important to bring office leasing market statistics because that somehow we feel is a great indicator to demand for business hotels in cities. So where we are, and there was a lot of talk in the lockdown that there will be no offices, people will start working from home, what will happen to this asset class? And by the way, JLL is the leader in office leasing, so we were worried as well. But I would say 6 months out of this lockdown, we're not as worried as we were, because you see indicators that the net absorption, which is a good indicator that people are moving into offices or are doing more leases, there are substitution of leases, have started happening. In Q1 of this year, we were 8.6 million square feet absorbed. And this is pan-India, by the way. I'll come to Delhi as well. In Q2, obviously, for obvious reasons, we dipped to 3.3 million, and the new stock was about 5.7 million, which came in. But in Q3, you see, the absorption levels have moved up to 5.4 million square feet on an additional supply of 9.1 million square feet. The vacancy levels, if you see the black graph up there, the black line, is still, in the ballpark where we were last year when the things were very good. So we were at 13% last year. We're about 13.5% of vacancy level this year, which means people who are leaving offices are being substituted by companies who are expanding spaces. So which means that once the apprehension of travel goes away, these office movers are going to turn into demand for city hotels. Now you see the pie charts down below, 34%, the red part is Bangalore. So Bangalore is really leading the charts in terms of office spaces, in new supply. And if you see the gray one is Delhi. So Delhi is, if you see 13% of 17.33 million square feet, which was absorbed, is Delhi. Again, the new stock, if you see out of 23 million, 17% of that is Delhi. So Delhi is really catching up. And there are people, and when I say Delhi means NCR. So, which naturally is a big demand driver for our city hotels. So things are not that bad. We are sort of catching up. Again, to put context to it, you see, there have been Amazon's picking up space. You will ask that, when we are leaving spaces, who's picking up? So there are companies such as Wells Fargo that took 1.3 million square feet of office space. There is Amazon, which is 2.6 lakh square feet in Vikhroli. DLF pre-leased 7.5 lakh square feet of Standard Chartered space in Chennai. So things are moving. And Apple, there are technology companies who are taking up space. So which means that once the apprehension of travel goes away, we start getting in the demand from offices. Coming to our sector, again, you see the green shoots. Now, a bit of it, as the chairman of CII also said, that we are into the seasonality, the high season of our times for the hotel sector. October, November generally were the high seasons, but you can also see the occupancies are moving up on the graph on the left, month by month. So we were, let's say, if at 20.8% in June when we were opening up, we moved to about 36.5% in November. Rates have also started moving up. Now, this is a pan-India story, and you can see that even the occupancies decline is just getting better by every month. And, you know, I'll come to Nikhil Sonovi and Mr. Bhatia to talk about the occupancies and the patterns that they are looking in their hotels. Is this, you know, validated by what you see on the ground? So who's driving hospitality? I think we've got that indicator, all of us. It's the leisure markets who are driving hospitality. We've just taken a sample set of two leading leisure markets of the country, Goa and Jaipur. If you see, June in Jaipur was 26% occupancy, is now moved to 38%. The rates have also started moving up. Yes, a part of it is that we have entered the high season, but remember, Jaipur is a lot driven by foreign travel, was absolutely suspended. Despite of that absence, Jaipur is gaining in occupancy and also on rate, and so is Goa. So is leisure going to be the next driver for all of us? Just to, before I go to the panel, I just thought maybe it's important to see what's happened to the growth and development of our sector. We were, just to give you a scale, in last September of 2019, there were 68 new hotels, branded hotels, which opened in the country with about 5,000 rooms. And there were about 121 new signings with about 11,000 rooms last year. Where are we today? Because a lot of talk that people will not build hotels. It's not profitable anymore. But, well, there were 35 hotels which opened up in this year of disruption with about 3,300 rooms. Not too bad. And there were 78 hotels which were signed, by the way, which means that people still have this view that let's build hotels. By the time my hotel comes in line, the demand should be back, and the sector, people will start traveling, and we will have decent returns on our investment. Now, I'll also speak on this with Ankur and with Nikhil as to if they are finding, more developers or investors coming to them for their new projects. So with this, I'm just going to, leave the floor and also invite my panelist, Mr. Goyal. May I just begin with you? And I thought that, let's sort of set the ball rolling with you, because you've been interacting with a lot of institutions, government bodies. You have a pulse on people traveling. What do you think, sir? Now that we feel that we're on the long road to recovery, what do you feel, are the opportunities for us? And what are the solutions that we should look at to kind of rebuild, reimagine, revitalize this great sector? And Mr. Goyal, I will, for you particularly, I'll just divide it in two parts. One, I'd like to understand, and we all like to understand, what are the solutions, what are the opportunities, and maybe towards the end, I'll come back to you again for your recommendations. So over to you, Mr. Goyal.
Thank you very much. And I would like to express my gratitude to CII Delhi, Northern India, for giving me this opportunity. Delhi, as you know, I used to have a column in the Hindustan Times, Delhi, the gateway to India, for 1 year. And whatever happens in Delhi has a reflection on the rest of the world. Not because it's just the political capital, but, if Delhi sneezes, whole of India gets a cold. So the focus on Delhi is very, very important. Now let us see what the problem is and what the solution is and how do we revive not only the tourism and hospitality industry, but how do we revive the economy of this country? So what happened? How did as soon as you see this virus was attacking all over the world, as soon as the first thing India did was stop the visas. And the second thing that happened is international flights stopped. Now, yes, you're right that driving holidays have increased, and nearby places in Delhi, whether it's Neemrana or whether it is Jaipur, Agra, or wherever people can drive in their own cars, those destinations are full. But the hotels which are dependent on leisure traffic are still bleeding. And not only that, the small tour operator who was dependent, the small taxi driver who was dependent on the foreign tourist, or the tourist guide, you see, whose survival is at stake, right? These people are still starving, and there is a very deep economic crisis. And let us not be happy that, okay, real estate is going up, or, these figures are fine. But I see situation every day, and there are a lot of people who call me up and say, what do I do? I mean, I've taken out my children from schools and I put them in government schools, and, so the crisis is still there. So our objective of today's meeting should be, how do we overcome these crises? So I have simply 5 suggestions. And these 5 points, if CII could take up in the report, will go a long way in putting balm on the whole economy and reviving the economy. The first thing is that we must start e-visas immediately, tourist e-visas, right, which were stopped. Because even if we open international flights, the other day in FAITH, which is our Federation of 10 associations, we had the Secretary Civil Aviation in our seminar, and we were asking him that at least with those countries with which we have an air bubble, we should start scheduled international flights. But even if they start the scheduled international flights, if the visas are not there, the leisure tourism will not start. So point 1, we have to start e-visas and we have to start international flights as soon as possible. Point 2, even for domestic tourism, which is right now, as you mentioned, 75 or 80% of domestic airlines are operating, we need to have a uniform policy of quarantine. If you have a negative test, not that in one particular state you have this law, in another state you have this law. If you have a negative test 96 hours before or 72 hours before, you should be freely allowed to travel all over the country. And second thing, to boost domestic tourism, we need to have a policy whereby the LTC incentive which is given on travel is also given on hotel stays. And students are encouraged from one state to go to another state and write on them, so that at least, some sort of a domestic activity takes place. And for domestic travel to, or domestic industry to survive, we need to revive our conferences and events. So, earlier we had 100, now again we reduced to 50, but now since the COVID, has come down in Delhi, we should have at least 50%. If the hotel capacity or a convention hall's capacity is 1,000, we should allow 500, at least 50% of the capacity, so that social distancing can be maintained. And outside in the lawns, if at the Red Fort we can do an event with more than 1,000 students, or at the Ram Janam Bhoomi, we can do another event of 500-600 people with social distancing. Why can't we do it for weddings? Why can't we do it for conferences and events? And secondly, we must give incentive or tax relief for domestic, events or domestic conferences, so that people don't go abroad for their international conferences, they do it in India. So that is the second most important point. The third point is, there has to be, we realized in this pandemic that we had to go from one ministry to another ministry for relief, and we could not get any relief. So the ministries which are there, like commerce, finance, railways, civil aviation, tourism, there should be a coordination committee between all these states, and there should be also an interstate coordination committee of tourism. I think we are working on that. And then the most important thing is, even if we revive, how to build the confidence of the international traveler. Now, it is very important. Now, our televisions, just to get their TRP, are giving, COVID figures like anything. But the positive side is that the highest recovery rate in the world is in India, which is over 94%. And in Delhi,
Jaideep, I think we lost him.
I think we've just lost Mr. Goyal's connection. Maybe we can come back to him, though we've jotted down very important points what he's given us.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Goyal. Oh, you're back. Yes, Mr. Goyal, very quickly, we can just
sum it up.
Yeah, sum it up. You've given us 4 points. So just let us know, sir.
So what I'm saying is positive publicity. Death rate is the lowest in the world out of 1.3 billion people, 0.7%. And all tourist permits, liquor licenses, visas, which were there pre-COVID time, should be extended automatically for 1 year, along with the, loans or moratoriums, whatever they were. There should be, and in a low, at least 3% or 4% to compete with international financial institutions. The cost of funds, for this sector should be there, and long-term 10-year loan should be given. I think these are the points. I think if this is done, I think we would have put the economy on a fast track. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Goyal. Very, very pertinent points. And I think CII will pick this up and start engaging. I hope we get to somewhere with all this. Just to take a step back, I'm going to invite Mr. Ankur Bhatia. Ankur, you've adapted to the new normal, as we all have. Could you just tell us what were the things going on in your mind in June, and how do you think you've sort of, as Roseate Group of Hotels and in your travel business, how do you think last 6 months have gone by, and what were the sort of important things that you could achieve in these very, very difficult times?
Morning, everybody. Thank you, Jaideep. I think, last 6 months or ever since the pandemic has started has given us time to retrospect in the businesses what we were doing. Of course, I mean, immediate time after March or April, as soon as we started seeing cancellations, even before the lockdown, we started looking at, obviously the first initial reaction was that we didn't know what's happening and how and what is going to happen and how long with this impact going to be there. But as time passed, the lockdown came in, we knew that this is a serious situation. We've never seen, I've been in the travel business since 1990, never seen this. Of course, you've seen 9/11 and other crises before, but this is unprecedented. So when we saw this, our immediate reaction is immediate steps, what we said we would take was that obviously we were, hotels were closed except for one AeroCity hotel, which continued to stay open because we had guests from Europe, which were stuck here. They couldn't actually get back to their hometown. So we had around 20-25 rooms. So we had to keep our hotels running through this particular time. And immediately we started actually looking to seeing how we could make ourselves visible to the world that we are taking all those steps which are required to have our guests feel safe coming into our hotels. And I think that was our initial reaction to that particular that thing. So change of the SOPs immediately. Of course, testing at that given time was not available to the extent what it is available right now. So whatever extent it was available, we could test the employees. Putting the SOPs, and after putting the SOPs, the fact was, how can we actually ensure that our people, our guests, our people who are wanting to book into our hotels are aware of what we are doing. So we went ahead and did some videos and put it on. So we had a very good reaction on that. Of course, I mean, our hotels were quite dependent on, specifically the two Delhi hotels were dependent a lot on foreign tourist arrivals. We had to then change our strategy as well. So we had to see, of course, I mean, we knew that India has stopped international flights coming in. They are still stopped. And I also think, as Mr. Goyal rightly said, that is the first thing which India should do. I think we are the only country which has restricted foreign flights coming in. I think we are the only country doing that. The rest of the countries are allowing flights to come in with quarantine rules. They are allowing airlines to operate as they were before that. The airline, if they were to get the passengers in or not, I think there must be around 4 or 5 countries who've restricted flights coming in. Country of size of India, I don't think we should restrict. I think it should be a prerogative of an airline if it commercially is viable for them to fly those flights in or out of the country right now. In any case, so we had to rejig our customer base. We had to see how we could actually start ramping up with the domestic travelers, introduce staycations at our hotels, and push our new assets. So we had just opened up our Rishikesh resort. We had to push that in this particular time as well. So thankfully, we've seen, and you rightly mentioned in terms of in terms of the occupancies and to this. So Rishikesh, for example, is a small inventory, but we're doing above 80% in the last 3.5, 4 months. We are doing great ARRs. I mean, given the circumstances what we are right now, we are obviously not to the point at where we would want to be, but given the pandemic situation, it's a great response for what we're doing right now. Even Delhi, both the hotels, of course, I mean, ups and downs because of the way the cancellations happened with the weddings, of course, the number of people who could attend. So we've lost significant business as well during these rule changes by the government, which were necessary, I would say, in order to get the infections rate to the right thing. But we've got at least 50-55% occupancy between the two hotels in Delhi. UK has been a different story, of course, altogether. That there are ups and downs, and there's a lockdown now, sort of a lockdown in London and in Reading, where we are operating the two hotels. Bath, again, did exceptionally well during the couple of months, and again, it's into that phase right now of doing where we are. So yeah, I mean, and in parallel, we also looked at a strategy. Since we've done these brands, we worked on seeing how we could expand. Of course, we've got 3 projects on the way right now, Jaipur, Goa, and in Hyderabad. But we've had a tremendous amount of interest in management opportunities over this time. Being an established Indian brand, a lot of people are approaching us now doing that. And I think what we did during this time was also to get that piece of business for us, boxed out to see how we can grow that. So I think 2021 would see some opportunities fructify, which will be our initial managed and not owned hotels. So I think that's been the direction over the last months, Jaideep.
Great to know, Ankur. Thank you so much. And it's also important to know that investors such as yourselves and companies such as yourselves are actually thinking of moving further. So it's not a deterrent. You're thinking of expansion, you're thinking of growth, which is a great thing to know, I think, and adds a lot of encouragement to not only...
Just to add to that, I think one of the reasons why investors are looking at this particular time is because there are ample amount of deals available. I mean, in any ways, the sector was not doing exceptionally well because of the high inventory. There were deals available earlier, pre-pandemic as well. But now I think you see more attractive deals come in and new attractive options for multi-use development coming in as well, where you could take that share of hospitality. So there are ample amount of opportunities even as we talk right now.
Great. Yes. So I think the most pertinent thing to absorb here, Ankur, is that for people who are looking at joining this space in terms of employment, need not worry. I know this was a very difficult phase, as Mr. Goyal also put it succinctly. A lot of people are impacted, but I think moving forward, we will have a brighter spot again, where we start generating employment into new projects, not only in construction development, but also in operations. So that's a very good indicator. Thank you. I'll just take a cue from where you mentioned about the leisure hotels doing well. I'll just take this conversation to Sonvi, who leads the leisure hotel business out of Delhi in the hinterland. Sonvi, are you experiencing similar pattern? Are the hotels getting busier? Also, how are you or Neemrana hotels now serving the guest, any differently? How are your employees? How are they taken care? If you can just give us maybe in the next 5 minutes, what is your view and how you have sort of emerged out of this terrible situation?
Thank you so much, Jaideep. So for us, when we opened in June, I think it was a similar situation. There were lots of questions that we had and not too many answers. And initially, the focus was to implement the protocols of the Ministry of Tourism. So there was a lot of work, in fact, that started off in the month of May. And, in fact, we wanted to ensure that our team was actually secure and motivated throughout. So we've always been a company that has worked very closely with the local communities. So we continued to engage with them through the pandemic, through the lockdown. So I think that was one of our focus areas. And in June, when we reopened, we had immediate bookings. And there were days where there was a little bit of panic because there were, news reports to say that suddenly the border was getting sealed. So I think initially we had a few teething issues, but those were resolved. Another focus area for us was to ensure that we had flexible cancellation policies. We also continued to interact with our customers and our clients throughout the pandemic and thereafter on all our social media portals and channels. So that was another thing. And as a heritage hotel chain, nobody actually expects Neemrana to have, to invest in technology. But I think this was a very, very important decision that we took. So from contactless check-ins to QR codes, I think this was something that as a heritage hotel chain, we decided to get into wholeheartedly. And we went a step further and we said, let's look at if we were to travel, what were the things that we would actually as a team expect when we were going into somebody else's property. So we even went an extra mile and introduced biodegradable crockery and cutlery, which has been very, very well received. We never have any service elevators in any of our properties because these are all forts and palaces and heritage hotels. But the team said, this is a challenging time, so let's introduce room service. And so now we even have this facility. So I think there's just been a lot of, brainstorming that happened within the team, which was very, very well received. We've always focused a lot on the environment and in all the locations in which we operate. So in fact, we were one of the pioneers who introduced a new post-COVID logo. And if you see our website, you will see that the green and blue in the logo are actually indicative of the healing planet and sky. And the fresh 3-leaf twig marks fresh start and growth. So these were a few marketing ideas that we implemented with the spas and swimming pools being closed, especially in Rajasthan, which is, very, very hot and humid climate. our team said, let's create other activities. So in fact, in Tijara Fort Palace, we introduced an outdoor jungle trek for children. We've had a lot of great feedback coming from Neemrana, where we've had bartenders classrooms which have been organized outdoors. We've had intimate cooking classes for all the young cooks out there. So there's a lot of, we've had to really brainstorm and come up with new ways to engage our clients. We've had historical tours as well, which have been done, of course, with the social distancing norms. So these are a few things which have been done. The Glass House on the Ganges, which is another flagship property of ours in Rishikesh, 23 kilometers above, is actually been remodeled to make sure that there are lots of outdoor spaces now for clients to enjoy. And we've received a heartwarming response as well. So that's just a few of the things from our end.
Great to know all of this. You see, we are all compelled to change our shoes while running on the ground. So I think that's we're all doing that, and it's not easy. Nikhil, I bring in you here on the same thought. You would have also changed your shoes while running, and you've been running through the country, zipping through. How many times you would have changed the shoes, I don't know. But what has, things like technology, again, where maybe we were not doing things in a certain manner, but now we are compelled to do, again, how your guest preferences would have changed, how your marketing campaigns would have changed, how would you have ensured safety and hygiene. Nikhil, just tell us a little bit on what you would have in your own manner done differently in the last 6 months.
Thank you, Jaideep. And thanks to the chair, Aditya ji, Meena ji, co-chair, and of course, in absentia, Vikram ji, for making sure this forum still happens. I think hospitality generally has been a laggard in technology, Jaideep, and if the pandemic has taught us anything, like Sonu was saying, is to not only adopt the technology elements, but to embrace it. And let me just put technology in two buckets. There's been lack of efficiency in hospitality overall because of the staffing numbers. Of course, labor arbitrage in this part of the world is more economical. So our solution was always more manpower than a two-way interface, for example. So if Wyndham wanted a two-way interface with Stick, we would just put 4 more agents rather than invest technology of building that interface. And India is literally the IT capital of the world, right? So I think every customer in the near future is going to expect a contactless service, but he'll still want to see the smile behind the reception counter. So that's not going away. And I definitely believe that's not going away. But everything from contactless check-in to QR codes that Sonam spoke of, to you're seeing hotels across the world right now introducing room service through robots. I don't see that happening so fast in this part of the world purely because of cost rationalization. But technology is going to be the next piece for all of us here.
Yes, indeed. One thing we haven't really talked about so far is F&B. And I was hearing quietly when celebrity chef Sanjeev was talking about, the zeal and enthusiasm of F&B in our hospitality space, and more so in Delhi. I have, been in my interactions with some, technology F&B portals, just to again look at what are the indicators. I found out that, Easy Diner was at about 300,000 table bookings in March when we dipped. When we reopened, they were at 3,000 bookings in June, which steadily rose to about 270,000 bookings that they've done in November. And their estimate is that by December end, there'll be about 320,000 bookings, restaurant bookings. And remember, this is not takeaway, this is going out eating. People are doing reservations. And if this is one such leading, e-restaurant booker, there are a couple of others, as we know. So which means that there is a trend, people are going out. What are you experiencing? Is this pattern emerging, and next year, 2021, will F&B be back in the hotels and in standalone? Ankur, if I may just ask this to you, you have great restaurants. I've eaten. Chini is absolutely phenomenal. So what are your experiences, and what do you envisage?
Yeah. Thanks, Jaideep. I think that's an important one. I mean, just to echo what Sonavi and Nikhil mentioned, of course, I mean, we've done a lot in terms of contactless pre-orders while you're coming into the restaurant as well. So we've got a system where you can actually, before you get into a restaurant, you have access to the menus. You can actually order for whatever you want, and your table wait time reduces drastically. So when you're getting into the hotel, when you're getting into the restaurant, we are made aware by technology, and your table is placed, your order is served hot to you, because obviously we know when to actually start preparing the order. So these are some things, but yes, exceptionally, I mean, I was also quite surprised, because kheer at Roseate House, Chini, my al fresco dining at Kian in the Roseate, and our all-day dining Del, they all, and our rooftop at the Roseate House Tara, they all, touch wood, doing exceptionally well given the current circumstance. I mean, we are in hotels. There's a lot of demand coming in. I mean, there have been days, because obviously we could not fill these restaurants, where we had to refuse guests. And we're still maintaining that social distancing in these restaurants. I mean, they're large restaurants. I mean, Kheer, for example, is, I guess, one of the largest Indian restaurants in the city. And so is Chini as well, in terms of its Oriental and its Pan-Asian produce. So thankfully, all these restaurants have got al fresco dining as well. So I mean, that has taken uptake during this particular time. So there's a lot of demand of Chini al fresco. I mean, obviously, we have limited amount of tables there. But having said that, yes, people are coming out for sure, because obviously they've been in their homes for a pretty long time, and with the kind of touchless dining experiences what we are offering between our all restaurants, I think there's a definitive uptake. I would not say that we are back to the pre-COVID levels between all our restaurants right now, but we are getting into that. I think, JD, one of the things I'd also like to mention, that since they are good and nice brands, so we've started experimenting and actually putting these brands outside our properties. We've just opened up a cafe in Vasant Kunj within owned real estate. So roasted by Roseate, a part of a co-working area, upstate of a co-working area there. And it's been just a week. Super response to begin with, but I see that these formats and of what we've done and what we've created over time, of course, they're always ever evolving. I think there would be a big uptake on that. Having said that, the technology continues to play an eminent role in our offering, so that time spent on the table, time spent in the restaurants gets limited to whatever extent. And of course, I mean, we had not had takeaway service between our restaurants before this, and I think this has changed that. So we've got 8, 10, 12% of revenue still coming from takeaways.
Okay, thank you, Ankur. One more important subject before I go back to Mr. Goyal for a quick roundup, and then we'll take up questions. But one more very pertinent part of our business, weddings. Nikhil, I would like to have your view, and then Sonavi, I'll request you as well, if you're experiencing any patterns emerging out of, maybe some exclusive weddings, smaller audiences, but high ticket weddings, or is it going to be the big Indian wedding as we all were aware? So are you, Nikhil, first to you, are you looking at any sort of new pattern emerging out, and how 2021 and beyond looks like?
Jaideep, absolutely. I think the pattern is small is beautiful. And if in the last quarter, if anything's been a savior for Delhi and for other hotels, has been the weddings. And let me just expand on that. Yes, while there has been restrictions on the number of packs, but there are hotels doing multiple weddings on the same date at different venues, right? So now you have rationalization in terms of menu engineering, because you're actually at the back end serving the same menu out. Yes, to a 50 packs here and a 50 packs there. And that way efficiencies from a hotel have come in play. But a lot of customers who would not come to a hotel, right, because of the packs constraint today, can A, afford a hotel, B, because of the hygiene standards that hotels have, and hotels have always been hygienic. It's not that we've not been hygienic. The banquets and the lawns and the party hall movement have actually, it's a new segment that's actually opened up for hotels. And that's the kind of segment that's now driving higher weddings at hotels. And I see this trend is only going to continue. And that's actually helped tide the business hotels in this point of time, because all the conferencing venues were actually vacant and they converted. And kudos to all business hotels for actually thinking out of the box and creating actually a banquet, even in a boardroom, for a mehndi ceremony and so on and so forth. So that trend is definitely going to continue in 2021.
Excellent. Thank you, Nikhil. Sonavi, may I just come to you on your thoughts?
Thank you so much. So for us, Neemrana and Tijara Fort Palace, the Baradari Palace in Patiala, I mean, these are, three established destinations which were known for their royal weddings. But for us, the number of weddings have actually remained the same through this fiscal year. The scale has reduced slightly, because a typical size would have been approximately 200 to 250 people. And now, due to the restrictions, we've actually scaled down to possibly 100 to 150 or 200, depending on the state regulations. So, but what has actually changed immensely is that if somebody was getting married in a hotel, as he said earlier, which was really a banqueting facility, and things were happening in a very specific manner. Now we're getting a lot of local bookings. So even in Rajasthan, in Alwar, we have a lot of people who are approaching us, because all our destinations, all our hotels have outdoor spaces. There are gardens available. We don't have centralized air conditioning anywhere. So it's probably one of the safest places. But one has seen a difference, because, in terms of minimum guarantees, things have obviously scaled down. But the wedding intimate segment will continue to stay in fashion for a very, very long time, as will the government restriction and driving destinations and driving holidays.
Great, thanks, Sonavi. That's encouraging again. Mr. Goyal, you've heard the panelists, with the adaptation that they've done, changes. Again, why I get back to you with this is, you're a very important sort of conduit between the employment base, the large sort of employment base that this industry has, and you with your sleeves up, hands down approach that you work with. You deal with so many young people who may be demotivated, not inspired, in the last 6 months. What is your sort of message to them after hearing what you've heard and after seeing what you've seen, to this, this class of people who are absolutely pertinent to our sector?
Well, Jaideep, whatever I've been, I think I must have addressed at least during these last 6-7 months, at least 60, 70 seminars. And a lot of them were for students also, where we were trying to motivate them, tourism students. And I've always said that there is light always at the end of the tunnel. I've always said that, every cloud has a silver lining. And I've always said that when the going gets tough, the tough get going. And I think today's seminar, I think listening to Ankur, listening to Nikhil, listening to Sonvi, and listening to you also, I think I'm more and more convinced that, the people who are there in this industry, whether it's aviation, whether it's tourism, whether it's hospitality, are the best people. I mean, we are ready to innovate, we are ready to change, we are ready to adapt, and we are ready to, uh, put on, as you rightly mentioned, change our shoes while running. So I think what one thing was very common in all these speakers. Ankur also mentioned it. Nikhil also mentioned it. That technology is very, very important. A touchless environment, a healthy and safe environment, is going to give confidence to people. And another thing which Ankur also mentioned, that we have to now think of innovative ways. Like they were not doing, delivery service, right? They've started delivery service, and they have started, starting standalone restaurants. I think it's a very good idea. So I think things like this in our company also, we have been having regular staff meetings on the Zoom, and we have also diversified. You see, we had a air charter company, we've gone to medical evacuation, we've gone into, repatriation charters, we've gone into a lot of, in the last 10 days, we must have done at least 15, 20 charters. So, you have to reinvent yourself. And, every storm runs out of rain. And I think now a time has come when we need to bounce back. And I think listening to all these speakers, Jaideep, you gave a very good analysis. I think that set the ball rolling with what the situation is, what the, you gave a lot of important figures, and I think they will be very much needed when CII makes its report. And we all look forward to that report. But the message which goes out clear to the audience, which is there, and when you'll put it on YouTube or social media, this discussion is that every crisis there's an opportunity. You have to look at that opportunity and not look at the crisis. I think this is the lesson we all are learning. And my only appeal through CII to the government is that, yes, we are innovating, we are trying to survive, and we are trying to keep our neck above water. But without government help, without government assistance, you see, this country has a huge potential. It's the greatest show on planet Earth. It's the birthplace of 4 great religions: Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, Jainism. And with this coastline, India needs to be, on top of the world. And to do that, the sooner, as Ankur mentioned, that we are perhaps the only country which is not allowing scheduled international airlines, right? So the sooner we start, the better it is. And otherwise, if we have this attitude, I know we have to protect our Indian carriers, which is very important for our economy, but we also have to protect India, which is more important than just Indian carriers. And otherwise, more people will die of economic starvation than will die of COVID-19. So we need to open up. We need to learn to live in the new normal, as rightly mentioned. Keeping social distances, wearing masks should be punishable if someone is not obeying those rules. And I think we shall overcome. There is no, I think Indians will bounce back. We have bounced back after bomb attacks. We have bounced back in other situations. And after today's seminar, I'm 100% confident that we shall win and we shall overcome.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Goyal. you have summed it up so well. If people would have, let's say, missed the first part of our show, they could have easily, through your recap, made notes, very pertinent points. And I think there are great takeaways for all of us. And for CII's report, we have very good takeaways out of this 1 hour session. I would like to, I think we're just on time. Maybe we can take a couple of questions, Anjali, if you so allow. And if there are any, happy to kind of then take it to the panel. Anjali? Let me check if I see it. I saw one question earlier in the chat. Just picked that one up. Someone asked that given what's happening, with people working from home, and it's just been coming to us for many days and months, what will happen to business hotels? Will people still do conferences? Will people still go for business meetings? Will people still travel to a certain place for a project, for a business meeting? Or is it all going to be the way we are meeting today? Ankur, what are your views?
I think, Jaideep, we've already seen some corporate movement at the Roseate House. So we've had people come in, already do some kind of meetings there. Now, I mean, you rightly said that there's people taking and people leaving office accommodation as well. The people who are leaving office accommodation have moved from work from home. I think those are the people who would also be our new clients, new customer, new guests who will come to the hotels to actually take meeting spaces, co-working spaces, office spaces for temporary working, or let's say, for example, I mean, it's a 7-day work, it's a 7-day week. So I think once a month or twice a month, they all convene into a banquet hall or something of that sort to do that. So I think these are new normals which are the world is actually getting into. But having said that, I personally feel the vaccines are out now. I think India, as soon as India does an announcement and they will run this program, and we've seen that reaction coming. And I think it's a matter of time, by spring or summer of the next year. I mean, it's not for long term, Jerry, what this change is happening. I think eventually in the next couple of years, things would get normal. But in between these innovations, of course, people need to meet up. If they are teams need to meet up physically as well. And I think till such time there is work from home happening, our hotels will be the place to for them to actually have a coffee together or meet up.
Very well, Ankur. I believe so. The same. This one is particularly for Nikhil. Nikhil, do you see a shift towards independent hotels moving towards tie-up with international domestic hotels chains under your franchise or management agreements? You're all over. You're very aggressive. What are your views, Nikhil? Do you see a shift?
Jaideep, there is a shift, and there's a tectonic shift on that, because independent owners today want to tie up with a brand. Because of the trust factor that a brand actually brings in, and of course, the cost efficiencies and the RevPAR premium that a brand brings in. I think the time is more prime now for independent owners to look at that. Also, the cost efficiencies that actually brand brings in. Now, whether it's a management or a franchise is really dependent on the owners. Ankur, I'm sure, is seeing traction in management. We are seeing traction in franchise. Globally, franchise is an accepted norm. Of course, in this part of the world, franchise is now taking shape. And thank you for your kind words. We're just trying to make sure that we get more and more flags out there, and make the unorganized independent hotel owners into an organized sector. That's really what we're trying to do.
Yes, absolutely, Nikhil. And I think by way of doing that, we'll all add efficiencies to the system. Which I think we all agree that there were a lot of cost inefficiencies which were there in our system, which courtesy COVID or this pandemic, we've all sort of been urged to look at properly. Thank you so much, everyone. I would particularly like to thank Ms. Meena Bhatia, for being with us all through. Our chairman, Mr. Vikram Bakshi, who couldn't be here today, but we heard his message. And thank you very much, Sonavi, for taking time out. Nikhil, it's always a pleasure to hear your views, and you contribute a lot to this sector. Ankur, always a delight to hear this. And also the fact is that you're not only an operator, but you're also an owner. So that great combination, and you've sort of seen it through both the lenses. I think it's very important for all of us to take, those experiences and lessons from you. Thank you very much, Ankur, for taking your time.
Thank you, Becca. Always a learning from me.
Thank you. And Mr. Goyal, I've been seeing on the webinar chat one great message which came for you, said, well said, Subhash ji, we need to protect India. So that's what you do. So it's not only about the panel or the industry, but you've given us a patriotism flavor as well. Thank you, Subhash ji, for taking time out.
Can I just add one point? I think I mentioned, I overlooked it, I had made a note of it, which, Sonvi from Neemrana had said, and it's a very, very important point for all hoteliers. I think the success of Neemrana is that they involve the local community. You see, and the local community has the ownership of the project. And that is why they are very well received. I think some of our heritage hotels are doing that. So I think if hotels all over India could adopt that philosophy, that particularly were leisure hotels in particular remote areas, right? They should give some benefit to the local communities. And one point which came up in the question answer was that whether these virtual events will replace, they will never replace. But yes, they will give us an opportunity. I'll give you an example. I'm the chairman of the Tourism Mart. We do it jointly with the Ministry of Tourism. Last 2 years, we were paying air tickets for 250 delegates to come from all over the world. And we were giving them about 1,000 five-star hotel nights complimentary accommodation. This year, we are doing it virtually in February 18th, 19th, 20th February. And we had to limit ourselves because we had a few crores only for giving free air tickets and a few number of rooms. But this year we are planning more than 1,000 international, big tour operators will get virtually from all over the world. So our, expansion opportunities and marketing opportunities through Zoom or, other mediums has gone skyfall. But at the same time, we will have a hybrid event. We have already booked the convention hotel in Ashoka, which we would never have thought of earlier. So instead of 250, if not 1,000, we'll be having. So I think this is a blessing in disguise for all of us. And we need to, cash on this. And India has a unique opportunity because of the anti-China wave that we can, get a lot of investment into India. But if we play our cards well, that is very, very important. And that is why I urge CII to make a very strong representation to the government of India that yes, we are innovative, we are trying to survive, but we have to thrive. And this nation needs to thrive. And for that, whatever 5 points I've mentioned, apart from that, we need to immediately open up as of yesterday our e-visas and our international flights. These 2 points are taken up strongly. I think we'll be on the road, we'll be on a fast track. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Goyal. I'm sure CII will make note of these pertinent points. And as I started my session with, are we on that long road to recovery? I may just put it, by doing all of that, we will be on that long road to recovery, but a bit faster if we can do what you suggested.
Beautifully summed it up.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Goyal. Thank you, gentlemen, and thank you so much, Sonvi.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations once again to what Mr. Goyal just mentioned. Neem Rana has achieved absolutely fantastic stuff by involving locals. This is absolutely.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Nikhil. Thank you, Ankur. Thank you, Mr. Goyal. I hand it over to Ms. Mona Chabra for the next session, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaydeep.
Good afternoon, everyone. May I request Ms. Chabra to kindly initiate the session, please?
Thank you, Anjali. Good afternoon, everyone, and a very warm welcome to this session on the roadmap to promote Delhi's domestic tourism in the post-pandemic phase. We have with us a very esteemed panel comprising people with rich experience in the sector, and they bring in diverse elements to today's discussion. I'll start with a round of introductions, though I think the panel is so esteemed that I am not sure that anyone needs introductions, but, I have the honor and privilege to introduce Mr. Mandeep Singh Soin. He's the founding president, Responsible Tourism Society of India, and founder and managing director, IBEX Expeditions. He's amongst several other things, an adventure travel expert. He's gone on expeditions across 7 continents himself. And he's now curating these experiences for tourists in India. He's a strong advocate of responsible tourism. And he's a founder, president of Ecotourism Society of India. So welcome, Mr. Soin. We also have with us Mr. Rahul Pandit. He's the MD and CEO of Hampstead Living, a rental housing joint venture between Lemon Tree and Warburg Pincus. Rahul has close to 3 decades of experience in the lodging sector. He's been a founding team member of Lemon Tree Hotels, and he has headed Ginger Hotels in India. And apart from India, he's had experience of working in the lodging sector with multiple hotel chains in the US and Singapore as well. He's also a member of the National Tourism Committee. The other people that we have on the panel, and I think they'll be joining us soon, we have another lodging expert, Mr. Shwetang Singh, who's Vice President, Asset Management and Development, Interglobe Hotels. Interglobe is one of the largest hotel asset owners in India. The Shwetang is also part of the M&A team, which asset manages Interglobe's international portfolio of hotels, and hence he brings in that international flavor as well. Prior to Interglobe, Shwetang was at Premier Inn, where he went on to head their India business. Now, to make the panel extremely rounded and to infuse more flavors and aromas, we have also with us Chef Manjeet Singh Gill. He's the president of the Indian Federation of Culinary Associations, and he's a corporate chef at ITC Hotels. And he has over 4 decades of work experience in pioneering world-class restaurants and really creating traditional Indian food, drawing on the nation's culinary diversity. And to round up the panel, we have Mr. Suhail Hashmi, founding trustee, Safdar Hashmi Memorial Trust. He has worked, he has a multitude of experiences. He's worked on regional development. He's worked with, youth in resettlement colonies. Then he's had a long stint in electronic media before he went on to set up his own production house making documentaries, which he continues to do till today. And for the last 15 years, he has been conducting heritage walks across this great capital city of ours. So it's really my honor and privilege to moderate a session with these esteemed panelists. And I'm Mona Chabra. I'm an associate partner in the strategy and transactions practice of Ernst & Young in India. I focus on transactions in the real estate space, and I'm the national lead for transactions in the hospitality space for EY India. And so it's really a topic which is close to me professionally and personally, being a Delhiite. So, both professionally and personally, I'm pretty in sync with the topic of the day. Now, I'd love, to kickstart the discussion, and I'm sure we're going to have a great discussion today. As we all appreciate, Delhi has a mix of various elements, that can provide tourism with a strong support base. I mean, you have the city with its culture, history, food, business activity, political relevance, educational and medical infrastructure. Now, all these provide multiple elements for creating a robust tourism sector. However, there are also multiple challenges that we face in the sector. Now, these have only exacerbated with the pandemic. Now, I mean, which is, it's brought out a lot of thinking. Everybody's thinking hats are on, and in a sense, the pandemic has really forced us into re-strategizing and devising a roadmap, in terms of how we can take the sector forward. Now, it's really a roadmap through the stages of survival, revival, and, eventually how to make tourism in Delhi thrive. Now, we at EY say the now, next, and beyond, so that kind of a roadmap is really what, everybody's been forced into thinking of how to take it forward. So, to kickstart, Rahul, if I could begin with you, and, if you could share your thoughts around this roadmap and how you see the sector evolving and how all participants can come together to make tourism in Delhi more sustainable and really create Delhi as a destination city, please.
Thank you, Mona. I am delighted. Delhi's been my city for a very long time, to also then be able to contribute my thoughts. Now, if we take a step back and say, what does Delhi bring to us? To me, Delhi in many ways is actually symbolizing the polymorphic civilization of India, and the fact, it has the legacy of over a dozen societal systems. So if we see starting 500 BC, this was the Indraprastha of Mahabharata, and then there were various Hindu kings, Tomars, Chauhans, Afghans, Tughals. Then there were the Khiljis and the Mughals, and then the British came in. And we have the modern India today. So this rich tapestry actually allows Delhi to truly offer its unique signature of history, culture, archaeology, arts, science, and cuisine. And tourism is therefore a natural advantage for Delhi to not only contribute to its GDP, but also to its employment. And if we see for India, while tourism contributes 9% to India's GDP, it is a mere 5.6% for Delhi. So with the focused agenda, civil society participation, and rigorous execution, my view is that by 2025, Delhi can look at getting 10% of its GDP from tourism, and by 2030, 20%. Now, do we have a benchmark? Do we have a parallel in India? Sikkim, which started a similar journey about 50 years ago, has 33% of the state GDP coming from tourism itself. And as we know, tourism has a big sustainability advantage, not only for the environment, but also for jobs. And it has a positive domino, because each dollar or each rupee of earning ladders down from travel agencies to airlines to hotels to restaurants to transporters, suppliers, retailers, and the local economy, adding value at each step. So this huge multiplier, and the fact that tourism actually generates more jobs than auto, technology, or financial services per dollar invested, it's a strategic choice for the national capital. So what do we need to do? The first is to have a multi-advisory group with representatives from industry, elected representatives, history and culture experts to be the tourism think tank and monitoring body for implementation of this agenda. What are the big concerns of Delhi today? The concerns are cleanliness, hygiene, and safety. So this group would do well to identify sites, locations, and themes which can be presented as an integrated tourism product and services islands that guarantee a couple of things: no litter, no polythene, no smoke, parking friendly, and safe amenities for families. And if we do it well in Delhi, this can become a template for India. Also, if we see, Delhi has 3 World Heritage Monuments. We have the Qutub Minar, we have the Red Fort, we have the Humayun's tomb. And we have another 173 notified monuments that ASI is supposed to take care, and many more that are falling in disarray. Many people don't know that Delhi actually has an integrated system of bowlies and water bodies, which unfortunately are in disarray today. For example, in Model Town, there is the Naini Lake, there is the Bhalsawa Lake, Purana Kila, there is a lake, Trilokpuri has the Sanjay Lake, similarly Hauz Khas. This is all in disarray and also a great opportunity for rejuvenation. So it will be brilliant if we can involve corporates in maintaining these locations with naming rights. Come to think of it, if you go to Hauz Khas today, it's a stinking pond. It will be wonderful instead to have a natural aquatic system charging our underwater aquifers, and let's say, hypothetically, it could be the Tesla Hauz Khas biodiversity zone. Or we could have the Godrej Agrasein Bauli, the Apple Naini Lake, or the Tata Delhi Archaeological Trail, or the ITC Delhi Food Trail. Then similar opportunities also exist in promoting existing themes and also creating new themes. For example, the Phool Walon Ki Sair in September. We can use this entire month to promote gardens and the flowers and get families also outdoor. Because while one opportunity for Delhi is that Delhi gets close to 2.5 million tourists, and many of them use it only as a staging or a transit point. How do we get them to spend more time in Delhi? And the bigger opportunity is that with over 2 crore people, how do we expose and allow Delhi walas to enjoy Delhi? Similarly, when I speak of gardens and other places, we have the Asola Wildlife Sanctuary, we have the Japanese Park at Rohini, we have the Millennium Park at Sarai Kale Khan, we have the Deer Park or the Jahanpana Forest. And similarly, extending this argument further, November could then be the month for celebrating India's cuisine heritage. So we have a Delhi Food Festival. Besides this, on a long-term sustainability perspective, as you were saying, I think a critical role has to be there of education in engendering a sustainable agenda, which also promotes national pride in the capital and civic etiquette. So tourism has to get into the school syllabus. So instead of reading about in a book, it will be good if students are taken by tourism teachers on DTC's hop-on, hop-off buses to actually experience Delhi. For example, if we say Delhi is the heart of India, it's unity in diversity. Let's look at our faith system. Instead of telling people respect religions and observe, all roads lead to Rome. A tour, which is the Lotus Temple, the Akshardham, the Birla Mandir, the Jama Masjid, the Sacred Heart Cathedral, Bangla Sahib, Hanuman Mandir, Chhatarpur, go to the Ahimsa Sthal. And if we want kids to experience what is contemporary India's foundational pillars and how do we lead the country forward, then we need to take them to the Parliament House, the Supreme Court, the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Jantar Mantar, and the National Gallery of Modern Art. And then also have tourism guides at these places. So what does it do? It's doing two things. First, it's leading to sustainable employability. And secondly, it's putting this civic sensibility and pride in kids. So today, if India is saying Swachh Bharat or Atmanirbhar Bharat, this will actually become a national agenda if kids go back and start teaching their parents about hygiene, cleanliness, pride, and safety. Like it's been said, child is the father of man. So I think it's an opportunity to really put that in play. And last but not the least, I think the government also has to show its intent in driving tourism as a major industry driver by giving it industry status. So what does it mean? As you know, our industry is very long gestation. And if our embedded cost of land in itself is 50% in any project, and you add parking norms, they'll add another 10%. While globally, this cost is 15 to 25%. There is an opportunity, A, to look at rationalizing FSI, and B, also parking norms. And second is to look at the ease of doing business. Today, if you want to do any tourism related project in Delhi, the entire licensing can actually take more time than doing the project. You need 70 different licenses which come from and NOCs and approvals from different bodies. The opportunity is, how do we simplify this? A, B, and how do we digitize this? And then the third is that power and taxes for the sector have to be at industrial rates. And last but not the least, I think if I see overall, given Delhi's connectivity, its resident base, and its access to technology, healthcare, and different systems, the opportunity is to also make Delhi the hub for wellness and medical tourism. So how do we get preventive lifestyle therapies and also curative systems, whether it is Ayush or allopathy? And when I think of Delhi, I remember reading this in school. So, Mirza Ghalib was asked to say, what did Delhi mean to him? What did he think of Delhi? So when he was asked this, he said, "Ek roz apni रूह से मैंने पूछा कि दिल्ली क्या है? एक रोज अपनी रूह से मैंने पूछा कि दिल्ली क्या है? तो यूं जवाब में कह गई, ये दुनिया मानो जिस्म है और दिल्ली उसकी जान." So to me, invoking Ghalib Sahab, tourism, it's a great opportunity to promote both the jism and the jaan of Delhi. Thank you. Thank you, Mona.
That's a great, some great thoughts around, the advisory council and, really what you said, about Ghalib in terms of, the jaan of Delhi. And that's why you feel more, kind of motivated in a way to make things happen and really to overcome the challenges that Delhi's tourism has been facing. Mandeep, if I could come to you, in terms of, you've been a strong proponent of responsible tourism and, in terms of also in terms of, what are your thoughts around that? And also in terms of, creating the stickiness around Delhi, creating the destination, what are, if you could share your thoughts in terms of how you see things evolving and what participants could do, please.
Thank you. Thanks, Mona. Nice to be here with all of you. And I think I see some old friends like Sohail and Rahul and Shwetank. Good to meet you too. I just want to say, this is quite amazing that, part of my thoughts are so resonant with what Rahul just spoke that I think I'm going to adopt him into our Responsible Tourism Society of India straight away, because I can't, stress on it anymore that one of the pain points, whether it is for the domestic traveler or indeed for the international traveler, are indeed things like our basic issues, if you look at the hygiene or you look at the cleanliness of the city, and these are real issues. And I think I do need to somehow, even though it's a slightly boring topic, but I do need to address the elephant in the room, which is, of course, our wonderful pollution. Now, it's been so serious that at least from both international and domestic travelers, you're right, like Rahul said, I mean, if we want to increase, and you mentioned it in your opening remarks, that if you want to increase the amount of time that people want to spend soaking up in this beautiful city, like many of you, I've also grown up here from school and college and thereafter, and it's obviously painful to see the transition. In some ways, it has not been so good. And one of the things is air quality. And I want to give you a personal example where last November, it kind of shook us because we had these customers from Canada, two wonderful ladies who were traveling at a, very sort of curated high-end tour that we had done for them, which was a slightly luxury and active kind of a mix holiday. And they booked for about, a 20-day program going into some of the boutique and the palace properties of Rajasthan. They started out in Delhi, and on the fourth day, they were in Jaipur. And they switched on the television. And I think it was the worst day of November last year when, we had a major spike in pollution. Do you know what these ladies did? They told the driver the next morning that forget it, we are canceling our trip, we are rushing back to the airport, and they took a flight back to Canada. I mean, and they did not even say that they were upset or whatever. They didn't want any refund. They lost all their money, of course, because, it's all paid for. But it's just how important, pollution is to a lot of people. And they did not want to be in this destination anymore, and they split. I mean, so we've got to, and the sadness, I think, for most of us is that we've seen over the last 3 or 4 years, any television interview is much the same. I could have put it on this year, I could have put it on 4 years ago. The narrative remains the same. So I think as a government, we really need to think, and as a citizen, how much pressure or how much good practices we can do, because it's not always about lumping it all on the government. Of course, they have to retain most of the, responsibility. But I think this is very crucial to making Delhi so much more hospitable in terms of air quality. That being said, of course, if we just put it in our minds that, again, what Rahul had alluded to in terms of if citizens were to realize what kind of, we have this Atiti Devo Bhava, which is guest is God. And if we realize not only the sort of spiritual and the human part of it, but also the practical and economic point of it, which is that the guest who is there in your city is giving you a tremendous, multiplier effect in, opportunity, business, employment, etc. So let's be a lot more tourism friendly, and let's take pride in our city to make it clean and leave it, as clean as we expect when we go out as Delhi citizens to other parts of the country. So to that extent, I think there's a very important thing that we have tried to do as a society, which is that we have launched something called the Responsible Traveler Campaign this year on the 27th of September, which is World Tourism Day. And in essence, what it tells you is that as a traveler, can you look after or can you look at certain guidelines? Now, these guidelines are there. We will share it. It's been backed by the Ministry of Tourism, by the CII, and also the World Conservation Union. And very soon, we hope that governments, whether state governments or central, and indeed many other tourism bodies, will make this more popular so that citizens can start looking at their footprint so that when you travel into Delhi or you're traveling from Delhi outside, within our country, what are the things that you need to look at? And I'll just give you a few examples. I mean, for example, when you plan a holiday, you could either do it through a professional, like a tour company, like we're set up, or a travel company, or a hotel you book directly. But can one give some focus on at least checking on the website what is the environmental or the eco or the community support philosophy that that brand might have? And we are suggesting give an opportunity to book with people who are more responsible. You come down to things like if you do a journey, can you start thinking in terms of carbon offsetting? If you take a drive on your vehicle and go to, say, Rajasthan or Himachal, or if you take a flight somewhere, you can log into a carbon calculator. It's contained in the guideline. See what you want to do, and it'll probably cost you a few hundred rupees, but at least you'll come away with a clear conscience and also really be helping the planet in offsetting the carbon through your travel. Likewise, lots of people want to do good when they travel to different areas, and this is true both for international and domestic travelers. And you've been moved by an experience, say you've been to a national park or something, and you want to do something for conservation. We've got a list of 52 non-governmental organizations contained in a book, which is obviously now digitized on our website. And you can pick and choose and donate some money, which comes from your travel kitty. So again, you've actually done good. And these are things that are becoming the norm for most of the travelers that are coming to India or are traveling within the country. I would also say there are some other golden rules, like, if you can shop local, imbibe the local culture, and a lot has been talked about that. Delhi's got a huge amount of potential there. So, and I'm sure people like Sohail will talk about it, how we curate experiences of just simple places like, say, a Lodi garden. I mean, most people just go for a, cursory walk through it without knowing what are the trees over there, or what the monuments are saying to you, etc., or what perhaps the bird life is. And we've got bird sanctuaries, we've got a plethora of, assets, which are tourism assets. And I think we need to have good interpretation. And that's where I feel institutionally, we need to also think of linkages between the travel industry and the travel stakeholders and institutions like, say, INTAC, or let's say the India International Center, the Habitat, because they hold a lot of programs where oftentimes tour companies or hoteliers or whatever, they don't actually bring that forward to their guests, that this could be a great experience. And like, again, to quote Rahul, I think he talks about, the experiences and the students thing. And I think that is exactly the same for everything else. I personally am a great believer in experiential learning, being in the outdoors. We used to, we know that when you go on an adventure journey, I mean, what you soak up is there for life. And you can also get a lot of adventure experiences within Delhi. I mean, how many people know that we have some absolutely fantastic sport climbing gymnasiums? So the people who are rock climbers, this is a great pull for them. And to be able to go out and, hang out doing some great sport climbing on a wall and having a coffee at the end of it, or maybe an orange juice or something is super. And, likewise, we've got to curate for Delhi and for the residents of Delhi, or indeed people coming to Delhi, are some of the areas around us. Like, Dhauj is a very, very important rock climbing site. Damdama is a great camping site. All these are peripheral areas around us in Haryana. Now, we've been going, ever since our youth, and now we send a lot of travelers. If they are so interested, there's opportunity for biking, there's a lot of hiking you can do. So the idea is, again, if there are casual travelers coming to Delhi, how do you expand that time set? And how do you actually curate all these experiences so that they can kind of, hang in there a bit longer? And to that extent, I think even the heritage monuments, basically, if you look at it from the mindset of now we are talking domestic travelers who are probably going to be the, next big sort of market for the next 1 year at least before the international ones start up. But it's equally valid for them. That essentially we've got to see what are the pain points when you as a traveler are coming to Delhi versus what you might experience, let's say, in London, just as a hypothetical example, or Paris. And you want to make sure that you are free from touts, you have a great cab service, your ease of access is good. Of course, a lot of them will be curated and, be chaperoned, but a lot of domestic travelers are going to do things on their own. And if until the time that they start using, professional travel companies, at least we've got to make that passage for them quite easy. And to that extent, I guess, even things like we can go the extra mile and think of Delhi, speaking about its own culture, even in its signage. Why do we have to have bland and boring signages everywhere? I mean, you've got to have a sense of place. So even if there are railings, or there is public art, or there is, lampposts, I mean, we need to put a design element to it. And if something can reflect, like we've already messed up our architecture outside of Lutyens Delhi anyway, it's all a big mishmash. But within markets, can we be creative? These are small things that we, again, if we ever get around to putting that think tank, it would be fascinating. But I just thought I'd, for starters, flag this. And I think I'll close by just saying one of the key takeaways out of our responsible traveler campaign is just absolutely for every hotelier, for every travel company, and literally everybody to insist that every traveler carries his own flask of, for water. You stop buying plastic water bottles anymore. Every hotel and guest house is equipped with a ultraviolet filter, and that's safe water. We just cannot afford to have more and more garbage, coming through plastic. It's a huge problem. And I think even at the UN level, it's been something that India, when we hosted this big meeting last year, we've asked corporate houses to really look at how we want to reduce, so that the supply chain, whether it's your Uncle Chip packets or your Bisleri bottles, etc., we've got to move away from all that. And so these are just some broad thoughts, and happy to bat a little bit later as well. Thanks, Mona.
No, that's a very interesting perspective in terms of, we talk about what we can do for the travelers, but it's also, the travelers have to act responsibly so that we can have, a sustainable, tourism industry to go forward. And picking up on your, thoughts around, having more sites, say in Delhi, where tourists can come, making them, traveler friendly. I think it'll be great if we can move on to, Mr. Sohail Hashmi, because, you've been walking people through the culture of Delhi. And, in terms of what would you recommend in terms of, making Delhi as a destination, maybe, apart from the quality of experiences, even the width of experiences, how that can be broadened, if you could, talk about your thoughts around that.
Well, thank you, Mona, for giving me the opportunity. And some of the things, unfortunately, being the last speaker, you always land up in a situation where most of what you had thought you will speak about has already been said. And Mandeep has put it, together so beautifully. So, but what I'll try to do is try to give you a picture of when we are talking of tourism in Delhi, what are we talking? Because to begin with, we have Delhi has been a capital for 1,000 years and more, and each dynasty that ruled, they built, and they have left a phenomenal wealth of material. But aside from that, what do we have on offer in Delhi? Broadly, if we were to list it, we have monuments and we have markets. We have places of worship and we have parks. We have street food and eating places. We have museums and galleries. Sadly, very badly missed and ignored. Large number of museums and galleries. Then we have cemeteries and we have mausoleums. These are the things that we have on offer in Delhi. Now, what do we actually show them out of this? In monuments, we show them the Red Fort, the Qutub, and the Humayun Stone. In markets, we take them to Chandni Chowk, walk through Dariba, Kinari Bazaar, and the more adventurous, take them to Delhi Haat. In places of worship, we take them to Jama Masjid, to the Digambar Jain Lal Mandir, Gurdwara Seesganj, Lakshmi Narayan Mandir, Bahai Temple. And that's it. 2 days at the most, and then we put them on the bus to Agra. 1 day in Agra, and we put them on the bus to Jaipur. 3 cities within 200-250 kilometers of each other, which have been the nerve center of North India for at least 5 centuries. And we wrap them up in 4 days. This is how we treat our heritage. Now, that is one of the things that we, and I want to essentially focus on this area. For example, and Mandeep was talking about it, do we promote our parks? Do we have actually thought of organizing walks and picnics in Lodi Gardens? Now, picnics had become very popular recently, but now on my last trip to Lodi Garden, I realized that you can't take eatables inside. Such a beautiful garden, you are not permitted to take eatables, so you can't organize picnics there. Now, NDMC made to be, somebody has to talk to them. This sense needs to be driven in their head that this is a park in the heart of the city. This should be open to anybody. What you can do is when people are permitted, they take entry, they go there for a picnic, they should be told at the gate, you have to clear up all your litter, and you appoint guards, people who are walking around, not muscling around, but walking around, and whenever somebody is seen littering, they are fined right there. You do it for a month, littering will stop. People don't litter in the metro, don't they? Have you seen anybody littering in the metro? We have to build this as a prestige place. Tell people this is your heritage, do not litter. This will stop. But the moment you open it for picnics, you see what phenomenal space you have right in the heart of the city. The Sundar Nursery has been done up so beautifully. It is such a beautiful place. Why don't we take the tourists who are coming to the city, even Indian tourists, local tourists, why don't we take them for a day-long picnic? Why don't we organize that? And we don't take people to the zoo, one of the finest zoos in this country. Children go there all the time, but do we take tourists there? Do we even look at it as a tourist destination? Have we actually gone out and explored our street food? Look, I've been doing heritage walks for 15 years. And I insist when I do a heritage walk in the old city that those who are walking with me eat that food. And in 15 years, I have fed the street food to Japanese, to Americans, to Germans, and the Americans are the most finicky as far as this is eating in the street is concerned. Not one complaint have I received. Our food is very hygienic. What we cook for breakfast is not served for lunch. We don't keep stale food. And that fellow that we are going to eat, and this needs to be explained. The fellow or whose street shop we are going to eat at, he's been there. This is his 7th, 8th, 10th, 20th generation. He has a name to keep. He has a prestige. One person falls sick after eating his food, he'll be finished. There's a very clean, and you know, we need to explain to people that cooking is messy business. But look at what they have finished. When they have finished cooking, everything is very clean. Everything is fresh. But we haven't even explored that. We think that we should tell all tourists who are coming here that we are dirty people. We cook messily and we are eating unhygienic food. We don't eat unhygienic food. We need to explain this to people. Even if you don't have a kind of a kitchen that you have in a 5-star restaurant, but Sham Sweets cooks everything very cleanly. Or the Parathe Wali Gali, everything is very clean, very very hygienic. You can go and eat it. I have taken hundreds of people. Why don't we make that into something that is a unique tour that we give? Or there is food from every state. Every single state has food stalls in Delhi Heart. Why don't we make that into a unique experience? Every state has very decent restaurants in their state houses. Sikkim House, Tamil Nadu House. You can take people out there for dinner and let them experience the phenomenal variety of the Indian cuisine. And Delhi food is not only Kareem. Delhi food has this phenomenal diversity, which we need to promote and explore ourselves. Then this list, the National Museum, the National Gallery of Modern Art, the Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts, the Craft Museum, the Dolls Museum, the Science Museum, the Gandhi Smriti, the Rail Museum. I went to England for 1 week. I was every day just going into the British Museum. I didn't go anywhere else. There is that kind of wealth in our museums. We need to talk to the museum authorities, ask them, convince them that they have to open up. They have to allow photography. All over the world you can photograph. Why can't you photograph in the National Museum? We have to explain to them. These spaces have to be opened up for students so that they can sit there, art students, and paint and draw. This happens all over the world. Why doesn't it happen in our museums? Why have we made our museums into absolutely dead places? This should excite people, make them ask questions. They should be educated people, art historians, who should be available, who should be hired by the museum to educate people, to take them out on these walks. These are things in which I think your organization can intervene and organize serious high-level discussions. Let them understand that this is how the tourism industry is built all over the world. It is not based on just come and see the Red Fort, see the Taj, get into a plane and go back. That is not the way to build the tourist industry. So, there is, and Mandeep would certainly know of this, there is a fairly large group of people in England, in the UK, whose grandparents, ancestors, forefathers were employed in the colonies. in India, in Malaysia, in Malaya, and what is now Pakistan. And many of them died here and were buried here. These people traveled to go and locate their graves. I have guided people, send them to cemeteries in Aligarh, in Meerut, in Dehradun. And this is a large number. We can actually work out a systematic tour of Delhi. You see all the old cemeteries of Delhi in 2 days. Beginning with the Lothian Cemetery, the Nicholson Cemetery, the New Delhi Cemetery opposite the Taj Mansingh, the War Memorial Cemetery in the Delhi Cantonment, and there is a 4-storied, 4-tiered underground cemetery, Asia's largest in Tughlaqabad, where all the churches have put in money together to create an underground crypt because there are no land left. These are, and there is a Parsi cemetery, there is the Jewish cemetery. You can similarly organize tours in the places of worships in Delhi, in mosques, in temples. And then there is the built heritage of Delhi.
Those are some great thoughts, Mr. Hashmi.
So these are the things. If you give me a minute, I'm not going to take any more of that. The phenomenal built heritage of Delhi, I'm not going to list it, but we have 2,000 listed structures in Delhi and more than 220 protected monuments. All we need to do, some of which I've mentioned, managers of galleries, museums and exhibition spaces, and even the golf course, which has 7 beautiful monuments, medieval monuments. Why don't they open the gates for tourists? Why don't they conduct walks inside the golf course? And everywhere you have a heritage site, open souvenir shops, open cafes, allow people to sit down, take photographs, enjoy the place, have coffee. If I had the power to, I will also open beer bars in all these places. This is how you make these places welcome tourists. You go anywhere in the world, and in the middle of a monument, you have a decent restaurant. Why can't we have these here? Why can't we create spaces which are for children, for their activities? These are some of the things. But before we do any of that, what Mandeep had said, clean up. Clean up. The Red Fort opens at 8 o'clock for visitors. The sweeping staff comes at 9:30. The same at the Qutub.
I think, Mr. Hashmi, there's some...
Why don't we clean up? Why don't we build our roads at night? Why don't we clean up at night? This is how it happens all over the world. These are basic things, I think. I think I've taken more time than was allotted to me, but I think these are some of the things that
these are all very relevant issues, and we really, it's been great to listen to you. And I think, you're bringing out the missed opportunities of, tourism in Delhi is really, in terms of why don't we have more places to visit and, to increase the access time for those places is, I think, a great...
Mandeep, your mic is switched off. I can't hear.
And so, Shwetank, if I could, come to you, because, one is to create multiple options for customers, but I think you had some great thoughts in terms of, enhancing the traveler experience, in terms of addressing the ease of undertaking journeys and, providing an integrated customer journey, so to say. So if you could share your thoughts on that, and, Chef Manjeet Singh, a request for your patience. We'll, shortly come to you, and as we get closer to lunch, I'm sure everybody wants to hear the chef's thoughts. So Shwetank, please, if you could, share your thoughts.
You're probably right. Good afternoon to everyone. Much like the, multicultural melting pot of Delhi, I'm an immigrant here as well. I came from Ranchi back in the year 2000 for my education. And quite frankly, today has been a great learning experience for me, particularly from Sohailji and Mandeepji. Rahul, you were absolutely phenomenal. I think, that kind of detailing, I wasn't aware of that Delhi has so much to offer, quite frankly. So, having lived here 20 years, over 2 decades, if I don't get it, I'm sure, the outsiders find it even more difficult to understand what Delhi really has to offer. So, adding to the thoughts that have already been placed on the table, I would like to take a slightly more strategic view to the whole issue. I mean, from what I've heard from others, there are lots of tactical stuff that we can do. But my approach to the whole thing would be, how do we go about doing all of this? And much like what Rahul, actually you suggested in terms of a multi-advisory group, I think the need of the hour is to put together that group very soon, probably headed by a professional CEO, much like what Mr. Nandan Nilekani did for Aadhaar. We need to be putting up a very professional group together who can then draw upon various government bodies and their knowledge, so that everything can be brought to the table in one integrated fashion. And how should they then proceed? I'm a hospitality professional, so I like to think of it as a customer journey. And if you look at a customer's journey, the first thought of traveling is where Delhi needs to come into their heads. Now, right now, if you look at what we call the share of the wallet in true marketeer style, when a person sitting in the US or somebody sitting out of Baroda is planning a holiday, what Delhi is competing against is not just destinations within the country, but also destinations outside the country. So there is a very tall order to be fought against if Delhi has to win. And for that, you need absolutely brilliant marketing efforts. Your PR amplification should be right up there. We don't even have a certain central theme to go with. If you look at some of the world cities, Hong Kong, which is Asia's world city, Vietnam, which is timeless charm, Singapore, which is Singapore has another of one of those taglines. Delhi doesn't even have one. So, what is it that we are amplifying to the people who are actually making those decisions? And then when they are making that decision, let's say they do, with some great thought, decide that it has to be Delhi. Where do they get all the information about Delhi from? Do we have a proper website, which is a world-class website, which gives them every information about various tourist heritage walks, food offerings, everything that Delhi has to offer? Is that information complete? How do they get there? Where do they stay? All of that needs to be very, very accessible, available on a few clicks. People say 1 or 2 clicks is all it should take to get to the information that you need. Otherwise, people just lose their patience. Right. Then let's say the person does decide, has all the information, has managed to gather all the information he or she wants to travel. Now, if it's an international traveler, how easy is the visa norms? How easy is the ticketing on the plane? If it's a domestic traveler, how does he decide whether they need to take a plane or a train? Is that information complete? Then what is the experience once they come out of the airport? We know the experience of cab drivers that you can have in Delhi or outside a railway station. So, all of that just keeps adding to the misery that people are facing today. Now the person has gone through all of that and finally managed to reach an accommodation. Now, what are we doing for the accommodation? Let me give you an example. I mean, we have just written a big paper on policy reforms in hospitality, along with Hotelivate, which has now been distributed to the various state governments. But if you just look at Delhi, very small example, land price, the circle rates haven't been revised in Delhi for God knows how long. And just as an example, if you wanted to buy a commercial plot of land, a plot of land in Nehru Place, you'll pay 8 or 9 times the price as a circle rate versus the transaction price that you're doing. Now, all that adds to the price of the land, thereby making it very, very complicated. FAR norms, parking norms, approvals and licenses. There's no end to the misery that the sector is being steeped upon by some of the archaic policies that we have to face today. So, which means not enough quality accommodation. I mean, Delhi has barely 15,000 branded rooms. How do you accommodate quality tourists within those 15,000 rooms? And actually, if you look at it the other way around, the decision making of the person may just depend on the fact that there are no quality rooms available. So why would they travel? Okay, now the person is reached, he's staying in a good quality accommodation at a price that he or she likes. Now, what about the information of where they want to go? I mean, you can travel to the smallest destination in Europe, for example. There would be a tourist center right outside a railway station or in the town center. If you walk into the reception lobby of any of the hotels in the US, for example, you will find small pamphlets of information available very easily. You can book tickets. You can just have the whole experience. Very, very difficult to get in Delhi. And then now all of this is done. What are you carrying back as a memory? Do you have tourist shops to go to where you can pick mementos for your friends? Because that's the marketing, that's the Delhi brand that you're sending back home to these people. So the whole customer journey right now needs to be addressed. And the best way to do this is through setting up a professional body. And that body would then be responsible for delivering all of this for the guests. There have been so many opportunities that we have missed. Formula One, look at Formula One. I mean, we allowed Formula One to leave the country because of some taxation issues. I mean, the multiplier effect that Rahul spoke about from the perspective of tourism. I mean, who's doing the maths here? We are great at creating certain facilities. There are so many facilities. I mean, Delhi Heart, for example, I'm sure somebody of influence traveled somewhere abroad and saw something as a great example, came back, and we implemented it. As Indians, we are very good at implementing it. But there is no holistic thought beyond that. What happens when you come out of Delhi Heart, for example? And what about the infrastructure that should feed into Delhi Heart and that experience? And then, of course, we Indians are not very great at maintaining these places. So, what happens once, even after the infrastructure has been created. So, there's a lot that can be done. But it needs to be done in a holistic manner for us to be able to really get the share of the wallet that we are looking for. Those are my thoughts.
Thanks, Shwetan. Those are great thoughts. And I think that integrated approach is, and what everybody's been talking about Delhi as a destination, it's become extremely critical given the pandemic as well, because, you need to have safety protocol. You need to have things in place at heritage sites, at hotels, at various places, so that the traveler feels comfortable in exploring the city and staying in the city. So some great thoughts. And coming to you, Chef Manjeet Singh, I mean, food is of course an integral part of the tourist experience, and like Mr. Hashmi mentioned, people talk about food in Delhi as, we talk about the Delhi belly and everything, but, they forget that we actually, believe in eating fresh food and stuff. And so, it will be great to hear your thoughts in terms of how you see the gastronomic scene evolving, and how do you see, Delhi being able to capitalize on its strong food traditions and culture and making the holistic experience for travelers. So, Chef, please, if you could share your thoughts.
Thank you very much, Mona, to give this opportunity. And, as I'm hearing, everyone has, like Rashmi, Mandeep, and the others, have really, absolutely hit the nail, that where all we have to develop the infrastructure for the tourist and for tourism, and for there to have to have a good time, good experience the whole day. And, but we lack, as far as I'll say more on the food, because the food is a common factor. It doesn't matter what tourist interests you have. Whether you go to the museums or you go to the art galleries or wherever you go, but you require food every 2-3 hours. There has to be some. And I really see in Delhi, where really you can take a bus of tourists and they can have lunch or dinner or the snacks, or they can have some other kind of food. There's nothing available. Either the people, the tourists, they have to go back to their own accommodation where they are staying. the groups. They might have to go back into and to having a breakfast, the lunch, the dinner. In the same restaurant again and again is very boring. It's not right, and a lot of wastage of time is there. So we must have the good outlets, with complete standard norms which we have for the hygiene, sanitation, and all that. We must have those, restaurants on the routes to the tourist destinations or around the tourist destination where the people can spend a lot of time in tourism, and then they easily approach reachable to the food also where they can have. There can be small hubs, hubs of the street food, small clusters of the street food in every 5 kilometer, 10 kilometer where people can have. But those hubs has to be complete as far as the infrastructure is concerned. They should be a potable water. They should be, neat and clean areas, hygiene, sanitation. And we somewhere, when we show our food, particularly the street food, we come across very nicely presented. The street presented, I'm talking about the whole shop. I'm not talking presenting a particular dish. A presentation of the shop. We come across even in the films and advertisements and all that. There's the street food, the guy is cooking with the brand on him. He's not properly dressed properly and all that. We must put pressure on these things. We must camouflage few things and show it, because our, as Mr. Ashfi was saying, our food is very hygienic. I have never heard, like he said, never heard anybody is getting food sickness from the street food. Because the food is always fresh. They don't work on refrigerators. They don't keep the food. And normally the street food, once is over. Rather they work on like a restaurant or the hotels, because they have the infrastructure, there they can keep producing the food and keep serving. But the street food guy, he has his own number, that's the number he'll produce, and after that, the food is over. So they are very clean. They know how to keep the food, which is absolutely sustainable and good to eat. So, but we have to, from the government side or from the few NGOs and the organizations, that we must make them presentable more and presentable more, and they can provide, and you feel the food is, you show it that it is hygienic. That's very, very important. And then the food has to be tasty, and our food is very tasty. And our food, I will say even one more step ahead, that our food is very healthy. It is good for wellness. But we must talk about our food. We must discuss our food. We must communicate our food to the people. That it doesn't mean if it's tasty, you overeat. Our most sickness happen is only by overeating. And that should not be there. If you eat food is tasty, salivation is more, doesn't mean you eat more amount of food. Eat tasty food, but you must moderate that. Now that we have to become an example ourselves and to communicate also. Now the most important thing in our tourism and otherwise also, we don't know that how to communicate our food. We take the people to a destination and to a place where the food is good, if you think, and to take them, and I've seen that by experience, even the professionals also sometimes make that mistake. When the food comes, we tell the people, oh, you might not like the food, it's very spicy, We start talking, and the food comes, and we start creating the negative energy on our food. That is the worst thing which we do with our food. We must know, we must speak in one language about our food. We talk very nicely, diverse food, this food and all that. But after that, we come on that, you might not like our food because our food is spicy. We so wrongly use that word spicy, with our food. So if we communicate our food with the positive energy, with the positivity, and I think there is a great pull India or even the domestic tourists, we like if I go to South, I must eat food on banana leaf and with the hands and all that. Other than tour is not complete. You miss something. So our culture is so diverse. It's, even to the local tourism also, we have so diverse experience in the food is, and we must do that. We must experience that. So, but we need to have small hubs, small restaurants, a larger restaurant for the tourists. And I think if there is a groups of 200-300 people, 200 people, 50 people come, there is a problem to take them to the restaurant for their meals. We must take people out for the breakfast. We must take people out for the evening. And like Mr. Rajpi said, I am also 100%, and I said also many times, that we must have opened the beer bars and all that. That people must go, like this is the sun, have 2-3 bottles of beer or whatever it is, enjoy the snacks and the street food over there. It's a fantastic entertainment. So I just want to stress on this. And for the post-COVID, I think we have to work a lot on the food. We have to, see the food, so that it should be packaged well. It could be packaged, with the new norms which has come. Also, with that, we must do that. And which are the given. It is not that the food, if hygiene is to be taken care now more or emphasize more on that, or the laws are becoming stricter, now doesn't mean you lose on the taste of food. Ultimately, all these norms, all the laws, they are given. You cannot operate without them. But a tasty, ethnic food has to be made. That you cannot compromise. And that's the strength of our food is. So food, we need not to do much, because our food is, is very well established. It is good for health. It is very hygienic. We must do the study on hygiene, as Raju was saying, that, that how our food, we make it hygienic and take care of the hygiene in our circumstances, in our climate, where there's so much of sun and all those things. Not follow the hygiene, sanitation things, what some other countries, the climate is very, very different. So I emphasize on food. I know there's a lot of people working on the infrastructures and monuments and all other things. They all are needed, but they all have to be supported with the food around. That's very important for the tourism. And nowadays, people have started taking their decisions, destination, depending on the food, what available over there. So ultimately, the day ends in the food.
Thank you so much, Chef. And I think we could also take some question and answers, that are being posted by some of the audience, some people from the audience. One thing which is, there is, like we all feel that there's so many elements and they all should fall in place. Rahul suggested an advisory council. I think one question pertains to, how does one get Delhi tourism to work along with this and kind of, take it forward. So, if maybe Rahul, would you like to, talk about that in terms of, how does one get to work with Delhi tourism and, take this whole plan forward?
Thank you, Mona. I think we have opportunities to learn from what's happening in Singapore, also New York and Bangkok. And as I alluded earlier to Sikkim. So this process actually works like a two-tier, that while the bureaucracy is there to support it, the bureaucracy at all times may not have the intellectual capital which is needed. Because, for example, we have had some very relevant thoughts. Like Chef Gill was saying, how do we pair food with a destination? And I was listening to Mr. Hashmi earlier, when he hinted on something, which only comes out of an experience, that, hey, how is it that we are missing, let's say, a nice glass of beer or an integrated facility for kids in there? Shwetank was saying strategically, how do we drive a theme for Delhi? Or Mandeep said from his experiences that learning is experiential. Now, all of this is coming because we have multiple heads who are immersed in this on the table. So it's critical to support the government with thoughts from an intellectual panel like this. And, in other countries, they either have it as an established body for a couple of years or revolving. And as Shwetank said, the idea is that besides a secretary, it has to be promoted. And the clearest example we have seen has been Aadhaar under Shri Neel Kane. Now, whether it's a, full-time responsibility, whether it's an accorded responsibility, and lots of stuff has happened like this in the government. If I was to take major policy implementation, for example, there was a nuclear energy push which happened under Shri Manmohan Singh. Or now I am looking at what's happening for roads and infrastructure under Shri Modi. So these are very big drivers for creating employability and GDP. And because these initiatives involve different departments, so whichever is that body, there has to be also a supporting act. Actually, what we are discussing for Delhi is of national significance, because it has to then be supported by an act of parliament like this to enable really tourism take center stage. See, what's happened is that tourism's actually been sitting not only on a concurrent list, it's been on the state list. And in the 70s, because somehow tourism's been seen as socialist. In the 70s, when Mrs. Gandhi moved even forests, and she also moved, animals from the state list, it moved to the central list. Tourism has been languishing. Hospitality, it has been languishing. So it has to be given a national status, and it has to come on to the concurrent list so that both the center and state are involved. And also this new environment, where between GST and CGST and, state, there is equal distribution. I think with COVID, the realization has to be that we have to give up our parochial boundaries on all of this. Because if we are driving it A, in national interest, and B, if it is something which needs support not only from the state and the center, but also experts who are embedded, whether it be history or culture or industry and civil society, it has to get that representation. So there are examples in India, there are examples globally, and this is something which has already happened for a couple of industries in India. So I think if at the right of government leadership, there is sensitivity and attenuation to the potential of tourism. The potential of tourism is, besides driving GDP, see, while many people keep on speaking of India's demographic dividend, to me it's a double-edged sword. We need to be creating 1 million jobs a month, and if that doesn't happen, then we are looking at, a social disaster. To me, besides GDP and driving revenue, the biggest thing that the country can do is to promote sustainability, and pride is to drive tourism as an item of national agenda.
Mona, can I make a quick point, please?
Yes, please.
Well, one was a light-hearted comment to Sohail when he says, talking about visiting cemeteries, which I have also, experienced with our clients going to the Northeast. And I just want to tell him that is a dead right suggestion. Sorry about that. But no, that's a light-hearted one. But more to Manjeet, which I think, somebody like you might want to dwell on this. I can only offer again, a slightly light-hearted suggestion. I've always wondered why Delhi Belly has got stuck, as a conversation point. Of course, there was a situation in the sort of 60s or 70s when we had a lot of issues. and it came into the guidebooks, and it's become a kind of a conversation thing. And I think obviously we do great disservice to the wonderful cuisine and even the food that we get off the street, as Suhail said. So I was thinking, why don't we play on this word a little bit and say belly good food of Delhi or something, something like that, which goes away from the negative connotation of Delhi belly and makes it into a positive spin, so that we have a belly good experience of food in Delhi or some such thing, So just a lighthearted thought again.
Great. Let's face it. I mean, there are issues in terms of basic sanitation, water, adherence to food norms and stuff, which we all understand how it may not necessarily be adhered to all the time. So I think that's so we are still getting out of that the connotation, but. One of the Sumit from
sorry for interrupting you while there. This is something that keeps on bothering me. We have this is part of policy that those who can afford to travel to India can also afford to pay a little more. So there are different rates for Indians and for people traveling from abroad for visiting monuments. I got into a serious fight with somebody in the ASI because you had this toilet, which was a pay toilet. Now, somebody is paying 500 rupees to come and visit the Qutub, and he wants to use the toilet, and you ask him to pay. And I said, why can't we provide free toilets? And I caught a man sitting there who was asking for 50 rupees from a foreign traveler to use the loo. 50 rupees, sir, 50 rupees. So, we need to remove these things. You are building, you have a World Heritage Site, you have to provide clean facilities. And this is something that the Department of Tourism, the government, everybody has to take very seriously. Your washrooms have to be clean. This cannot be compromised. You cannot have dirty washrooms offering to people who are paying 500 rupees to visit that monument, or now it is 650 or whatever. And this is something that nobody bothers with. Sorry for interrupting you, but this is something that bothers me a lot.
Fair. I think it's also the education in the people who are responsible for providing the services, and the citizens. I mean, that consciousness has to be there, and creating really the Atiti Deva Bhav kind of a concept, and not looking at maybe overcharging or fleecing tourists.
Yeah.
I think it's been, it's been a great session, and really, I'm very thankful for all of you to join in and share your thoughts. I think we all agree that, we are in a great city, and I think the time is there now to, kind of evolve a roadmap to capitalize on the immense potential that the city provides for tourism. And as we are looking, a lot of domestic tourists to come in, and spend money here in the city, and, to increase the attractiveness. I think all of you had some great thoughts in how to create a holistic experience for travelers. And I do hope that, we all as industry participants can come together and, have an overriding kind of, like a council, which Rahul suggested, which has people from culture, industry, hoteliers, and, people like, yourselves in terms of, who conduct heritage walks and who curate journeys, who provide food experiences, and things like, getting the pollution of Delhi in place, which kind of drives out to people during the great winter season that we have. And, to look at it in a complete holistic way, at a macro level. And of course, like Sohail, you talked about certain, ground realities, how it should pan out at the ground. So thank you, everyone. It's been a great session, and it's been really my privilege to have a discussion with all of you today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was a great experience, and especially the little things that Mandeep put in. Great.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.